Hi guys! Tonight we step into a world lit only by fire. The sun has long disappeared beyond a distant ridge. Darkness spreads across the prehistoric landscape. Above you, thousands of stars fill the sky with a brightness that few people today ever experience. There are no cities nearby, no roads, no electric lights glowing on the horizon, only grass moving softly in the night wind, the faint smell of smoke, and the warm orange circle of a campfire flickering against the darkness. A small group of humans sits around the flames. You hear quiet conversation. You hear crackling wood, somewhere beyond the camp. An animal calls into the night. The people beside the fire look familiar in many ways. They laugh, they worry, they care for their children. They grow tired after long days. They wake hungry in the morning. And yet they understand their own bodies very differently than you do. Tonight, you're going to spend time with them. You're going to walk beside them through one of the greatest mysteries in human history, the mystery of the human body itself. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, let me know your location and your local time in the comments below. Now, dim the lights and let the firelight guide you back tens of thousands of years. You sit down near the edge of the camp. The ground feels cool beneath you. A faint scent of damp earth rises from the soil nearby. A woman adjusts a piece of animal hide draped across her shoulders. A child sleeps close to the warmth of the flames. At first glance, everything seems ordinary, but if you could ask these people what was happening inside their bodies at this very moment, their answers would sound surprisingly unfamiliar. Today, many of us learn basic anatomy in school. We know that the heart pumps blood. We know that the brain controls thoughts and movement. We know that tiny microorganisms can cause disease for prehistoric humans. None of those explanations existed. The body was something you experienced directly. You felt hunger, you felt cold, you felt pain, you felt fear. But understanding why those sensations occurred was another matter entirely. A mainstream historical fact is that prehistoric humans possessed bodies nearly identical to our own. By roughly 300,000 years ago, early Homo sapiens already shared most of the physical characteristics that define modern humans today. The bodies around this fire are not primitive versions of you. They are you. Their muscles function the same way. Their hearts beat the same way. Their lungs draw in the same cool night air. The difference lies not in biology but in knowledge. You watch one of the hunters return from the darkness carrying a bundle of wood. His breathing is heavy from the effort. He understands that carrying weight tires him. He understands that resting helps him recover. But he has no concept of oxygen travelling through blood vessels. He has never heard the word muscle. He does not know what a cell is. The entire invisible machinery operating within his body remains hidden. And perhaps that is not as strange as it first sounds. Even today, most of us cannot directly observe the processes keeping us alive. You cannot feel your liver performing hundreds of chemical functions. You cannot hear your immune system responding to threats. You cannot sense hormones moving through your bloodstream. Much of your own body remains invisible. The difference is that science has provided explanations for the people around this fire. Explanations must come from observation, tradition, and imagination. The flames pop softly. A few sparks drift upward. An elder begins speaking. The younger members of the group listen carefully. Knowledge in this world travels through stories. There are no books, no diagrams, no classrooms. Everything important must be remembered. Researchers continue to question exactly how prehistoric communities explained bodily functions. Organic beliefs leave few traces in the archaeological record, making ancient ideas difficult to reconstruct with certainty. Still, clues remain. Across many ancient societies, people often linked health to spirits, unseen forces, ancestors, animals, or sacred powers. Those ideas likely have roots stretching deep into prehistory, after all. If you see a healthy person suddenly become ill, what explanation would seem most reasonable without medical science? The answer is not obvious. Imagine waking one morning with a fever. Your skin burns. Your muscles ache. Your thoughts feel cloudy. You cannot see bacteria. You cannot measure temperature. You cannot examine blood chemistry. Something invisible has happened. Something powerful. Something frightening. You can understand why people might look beyond the physical world for answers. A lesser-known historical detail is that evidence from ancient burials suggests prehistoric humans often treated bodies with great care and attention. Some graves contain carefully arranged remains, decorative objects, pigments, and offerings. This tells us something important. People were thinking deeply about bodies long before they understood anatomy. The body mattered. The body carried meaning. The body connected life and death. The fire burns lower. Someone adds another branch. Warm light spreads across faces marked by years of wind, sunlight, and hard travel. You notice scars. One hunter has a pale line running across his forearm. Another person walks with a slight limp. Each mark tells a story. Prehistoric humans learned enormous amounts about the body through experience. They knew which injuries healed. They knew which wounds became dangerous. They knew which plants eased discomfort. They knew that rest helped recovery. Their knowledge was practical rather than theoretical. In many ways, they understood survival better than most modern people. If you dropped a smartphone into this camp, it would be useless. If you dropped an average modern office worker here, survival might become challenging very quickly. The people around this fire possess skills refined through countless generations, yet even they face mysteries. The child sleeping nearby twitches slightly during a dream. His eyes move beneath closed eyelids. No one here understands what dreams are. No one understands memory formation. No one understands electrical signals travelling through the brain, and so the mystery remains. Perhaps dreams are messages. Perhaps they are journeys. Perhaps they are encounters with distant spirits. The possibilities seem endless. You stare into the flames. The firelight dances across the darkness. Around you, bodies breathe steadily. Hearts beat quietly. Blood flows unseen. Thoughts appear and disappear. Tiny biological processes continue their work without pause. The people here do not know the words artery, neuron, hormone, or immune system. Yet those systems are already operating perfectly. The remarkable truth is that for most of human history, people lived inside bodies they only partially understood. They knew what bodies felt like. They knew what bodies could do. But the hidden mechanisms remained concealed beneath skin, muscle, and bone. Tonight, your journey begins beside this fire, a place where humanity understands survival remarkably well, and understands itself only a little. The stars continue shining overhead. The wind moves softly through the grass. The camp settles into silence, and somewhere within every sleeping person around you, countless invisible processes quietly carry on through the night. The night deepens, and the camp grows quieter. You remain near the fire, listening to the slow breathing of people wrapped in skins and woven coverings. The flames have settled into red coals now, glowing beneath a soft layer of ash. Every so often, a piece of wood shifts, sending a small ribbon of sparks upward into the dark. In this world, pain is one of the oldest teachers, not a kind teacher, unfortunately. More like the sort of teacher who arrives without warning, gives no explanation, and expects everyone to learn quickly. You notice it first in the way people move. One woman rubs her shoulder after carrying a bundle of gathered roots. A young man sits with his legs stretched carefully before him, avoiding pressure on the ankle. An older hunter flexes his fingers near the heat, perhaps easing stiffness from cold air and years of work. No one here knows about nerves. No one can explain pain signals travelling through the body. But everyone understands that pain means attention. Pain says stop. Pain says be careful. Pain says something has changed. Before you watch the camp fully wake, it helps to understand the larger world these people inhabit. There are no permanent hospitals, no written medical texts, no metal surgical tools, and no clean white rooms filled with quiet machines. Knowledge moves by memory, imitation, and experience. A person learns by watching elders, by surviving accidents, and by remembering what helped the last time someone was hurt. A mainstream historical fact is that prehistoric humans experienced many of the same injuries modern people do, including sprains, cuts, broken bones, infected wounds, tooth pain, and joint wear. The difference is not the pain itself. The difference is the explanation. You follow the young man with the sore ankle as morning begins to pale along the eastern sky. The camp stirs slowly. Smoke lifts from the embers. Someone coughs. Someone shakes dew from a hide covering. Birds call from the brush near the stream. The young man rises carefully. He winces. His face tightens for just a moment, then relaxes. He does not say much. Pain in this world is personal, but it is also communal. If he cannot walk far, someone else may gather more. If he cannot hunt, the group must adjust. A painful body is never only one person's problem. You walk beside him toward the edge of camp. The ground is uneven, scattered with stones and dry grass. He places his foot gently, testing the earth before giving it his weight. You can almost see the calculation in his movements, not scientific calculation, not the tidy kind that appears in textbooks, but a quiet bodily wisdom. This hurts, that hurts less. This path is safer. That stone is not my friend today. It is strangely familiar. Even now, with all our medical language, most people first understand injury this way. You twist your ankle, and before you know anything about ligaments, swelling, or inflammation, you know one simple thing: do not step like that again. Nearby. An older woman notices him moving slowly. She gestures for him to sit near a flat stone warmed by the first light. She touches the ankle with careful fingers, not roughly, not dramatically, just enough to see where the pain answers. The body speaks through reaction. A flinch, a breath held, a small tightening around the eyes. She may not know anatomy, but she reads signs well. A quirky and lesser-known tidbit from prehistoric archaeology is that some ancient skeletons show healed fractures, meaning individuals survived serious injuries long enough for bone to repair itself. That survival often suggests care from others, because a badly injured person may have needed help with food, movement, and protection. You look around the camp and realize this matters. Compassion leaves marks in bone, not always in grand monuments, not always in written speeches. Sometimes it appears as a healed leg, a repaired skull, a person who lived longer than an injury should have allowed. The woman wraps the ankle with a strip of softened hide. Perhaps it gives support. Perhaps it provides comfort. Perhaps both. In a world without pharmacies, comfort itself is medicine. She murmurs something you cannot understand. The young man listens. There is no anatomy chart between them, no explanation involving tendons or swelling. Yet there is care, observation, memory, and patience. Scholars remain divided on how much prehistoric healing depended on practical experience versus spiritual belief, because the same treatment could easily carry both meanings at once. A wrapped ankle might support the body, a spoken phrase might calm the mind, smoke from a plant might soothe pain, a ritual gesture might reassure everyone that the invisible forces had been acknowledged. To modernize, we often separate medicine from meaning. This is treatment, that is belief, but in this camp, those lines blur softly, like smoke drifting into morning fog. You continue through the day. Pain appears in small ways everywhere. A child cries after scraping a knee on stone. An elder presses a hand against the lower back before standing. A gatherer pulls a thorn from her palm and sucks in a sharp breath. Each moment passes quietly, but each one teaches. The camp learns which plants sting, which stones cut deeply, which paths twist ankles, which bites swell, which wounds close cleanly, which wounds bring heat, redness, and danger. They do not know infection in the modern sense. They cannot imagine invisible organisms multiplying beneath damaged skin, but they can observe patterns. Some wounds smell bad, some become hot, some drain, some bring fever, and patterns matter. Human intelligence begins with pattern recognition. This happened. Then that followed. This plant helped. That water made people sick. That person rested and recovered. That person kept walking and worsened. You watch the older woman clean the scraped knee of the child with water from a small container. The child sniffs, offended by the entire experience, which is fair. Being small in prehistory has many disadvantages, and one of them is that the ground seems unusually committed to attacking you. The woman blows gently on the scrape. The child quiets, for a moment. Nothing about this scene feels ancient. It feels human. Pain has not changed much. Neither has the impulse to soothe it. Later, as afternoon light spreads across the valley, you walk beyond the camp with two gatherers. The air smells of dry grass, resin, and distant water. Insects hum in the warmth. One gatherer points to a low plant with narrow leaves. She avoids touching it. Another plant is collected carefully and placed into a pouch. These choices carry generations of memory. Some plants ease discomfort. Some irritate the skin. Some can dull pain. Some can endanger life. There is no written recipe. Yet knowledge survives through repetition. Hands teach hands. Voices teach children. Mistakes teach everyone. You begin to understand that prehistoric people did not need modern science to take pain seriously. They lived close to it. They respected it. They listened because ignoring it could be costly. Still, the deepest mystery remained hidden. Why did pain exist at all? Why should a wound burn? Why should a tooth throb? Why should the head ache when the body was tired or hungry, without knowledge of nerves and the brain? Pain could seem like a force moving through the body, a warning from within, or perhaps even a message from outside the visible world. As evening returns, the young man with the wrapped ankle sits near the fire again. The day has not healed him. Healing is rarely that polite, but he is resting. Someone passes him food, someone else jokes quietly. The child with the scraped knee has already forgotten the tragedy, and is poking at ashes with a stick, because children have always been very committed to dangerous research. The firelight softens every face. Pain remains in the camp, but it does not rule the camp. It is managed, shared, watched, answered with touch, rest, wrapping, warmth, plants, and story. You sit close enough to feel the heat on your hands. Your own body becomes part of the lesson. You feel the pressure of the ground beneath you, the slight stiffness from sitting still, the warmth on your skin, the cool night air at your back, even now. Pain is not only biology, it is memory, it is warning, it is fear, it is relief when it fades. The people around you may not understand nerves, but they understand the importance of listening. And in this ancient camp where every sensation carries meaning, listening to the body is one of the quiet arts of staying alive. Morning arrives cool and clear. The fire that glowed through the night has been rebuilt into a lively flame. Thin smoke drifts upward into pale blue sky. Dew clings to grass. The smell of damp earth lingers from the darkness before dawn. You sit quietly near the edge of camp, watching people begin another day. A woman prepares tools. A hunter checks the sharp edge of a stone point. Children chase one another between shelters. Everything appears peaceful. Then a sharp cry breaks the morning air. Not a scream, just a brief sound of surprise. One of the younger hunters has sliced his hand while working. The cut is small, very small. In your world, it might barely interrupt your day. You might wash it, place a bandage over it, and forget about it before dinner. But here, even a small cut attracts immediate attention, because blood is strange, very strange. The young hunter lifts his hand instinctively. Bright red drops gather along the edge of the wound. A few fall onto the ground. Everyone nearby notices. The sight of blood commands attention in every human culture. It always has. You walk closer. The injury is not serious. The bleeding slows quickly. Yet the reaction reveals something important about how prehistoric people understood their bodies, or perhaps more accurately, how they did not. A mainstream historical fact is that ancient humans had no knowledge of circulation. The idea that blood moved continuously through a closed system would not be scientifically demonstrated until thousands of years later. Today you know that your heart pumps blood through arteries, veins, and countless tiny vessels. You know that blood carries oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and immune cells. You know that an adult human body contains several liters of it. The people around you know none of this. They know only what they can see, and what they can see is remarkable enough. Blood appears whenever the body is damaged. Large blood loss often leads to weakness. Too much blood loss can lead to death. The connection is obvious. The explanation is not. You watch the injured hunter wrap his hand in a strip of hide. An older man examines the wound carefully. He nods, no concern, no alarm. The young hunter relaxes. The camp returns to its morning rhythm. Yet the image lingers, that bright red liquid emerging from beneath the skin. Where does it come from? How much is there? What does it do? These questions seem simple today. In prehistory, they would have felt enormous. You walk beyond the camp with several hunters later that morning. The sun rises higher. Warmth spreads across the valley. Birds move through distant trees. The conversation drifts naturally toward injuries. One man points to a scar running across his forearm. Another touches a mark near his shoulder. Each scar represents survival. Each scar represents a moment when blood appeared. You begin to realize that blood was probably one of humanity's earliest biological mysteries. Unlike the brain, it can be seen. Unlike internal organs, it can be touched. Unlike digestion, it leaves visible evidence. People encounter blood constantly throughout life. Birth, hunting, accidents, illness, death. The substance appears everywhere, yet its purpose remains hidden. Researchers continue to debate how prehistoric humans interpreted blood symbolically, because direct evidence is scarce. However, later ancient cultures often connected blood with life force, vitality, ancestry, or spiritual power. Those beliefs may have roots stretching far back into humanity's past. It is not difficult to understand why. Imagine seeing a wounded animal collapse after losing large amounts of blood. Imagine watching a healthy person weaken after severe injury. The pattern is obvious. Blood and life seem connected, very closely connected, perhaps inseparable. As the day continues, the hunters move through open grassland. The wind carries scents of dry plants and distant water. Sunlight warms your skin. Insects drift lazily through the air. One hunter notices fresh animal tracks. The group pauses. Everyone studies the ground. Tracking requires extraordinary observation. The people around you are experts at reading signs: a bent blade of grass, a disturbed patch of soil, a broken twig. Nothing escapes attention, and this same observational skill shapes their understanding of the body. They may lack scientific theory, but they possess practical awareness. When someone bleeds heavily, danger follows. When bleeding stops, recovery becomes possible. Patterns become knowledge, knowledge becomes tradition, tradition becomes survival. The hunters eventually locate a small animal. The hunt is brief. The result provides food for the camp, and once again, blood appears, this time from prey rather than people. You notice something interesting. Everyone treats the blood matter-of-factly. There is no panic, no dramatic reaction. Blood is mysterious, but it is also familiar. People encounter it regularly. Perhaps that familiarity made the mystery even deeper. How can something so common remain so poorly understood? Then again, many parts of life work that way. Most people today use electricity every day without fully understanding how power grids operate. The prehistoric equivalent might be blood. Everyone depends on it. Few understand it. A quirky historical detail comes from ancient cave art and ritual sites where red pigments, often made from ochre, appear repeatedly. Some researchers have wondered whether the visual similarity between red ochre and blood contributed to symbolic associations involving life, death, fertility, or renewal. No one knows for certain, yet the possibility is fascinating. You imagine early humans observing blood on skin, then seeing red earth beneath their feet. The same colour appears in two different places. One emerges from the body, one emerges from the land. Ancient minds often search for connections. The afternoon passes slowly. Back at camp, people prepare food, children play, elders sit in patches of sunlight. The injured hunter continues using his hand carefully. His cut has already begun closing. The body is repairing itself. Of course. Nobody here understands clotting. No one knows about platelets. No one knows about cellular repair. Healing simply happens, or at least it appears to. You sit beside the stream and watch sunlight flicker across moving water. The surface reminds you of blood in a strange way. Both flow. Both move continuously. Both seem alive, yet one remains visible while the other stays hidden beneath skin. The human body conceals many secrets. Blood is one of the few clues escaping from inside. Perhaps that is why it captured so much attention throughout human history. As evening approaches, shadows lengthen across the valley. The camp gathers once again around the fire. The familiar smells return. Wood smoke, cooked food, warm hides, earth cooling after sunset. The young hunter with a cut hand sits nearby. The wound has stopped bleeding completely. A thin, dark line marks where skin separated earlier. Tomorrow it will look better. A few days from now it may barely be noticeable. The body performs miracles so quietly that people rarely pause to admire them. Cells divide, tissue repairs, damage closes, life continues. The people around you witness these outcomes, but the processes remain invisible. Scholars remain divided on exactly how prehistoric communities explained healing. Yet many researchers suspect observation played a larger role than we sometimes assume. Ancient people may not have understood mechanisms, but they were skilled at recognizing outcomes. That distinction matters. You do not need to know why something works to notice that it does. The fire crackles softly. Darkness settles across the camp. Stars appear one by one overhead. You think again about that small drop of blood falling onto the ground this morning. Such a simple moment, such a familiar sight. Yet hidden within it are questions that humanity would spend tens of thousands of years trying to answer. Questions about life, questions about survival, questions about what keeps the body moving from one day to the next. The people around you know blood is important. They know losing too much can be fatal. They know injuries deserve attention. For now, that knowledge is enough. The deeper secrets remain concealed beneath skin and bone, waiting for future generations to uncover them. and beneath the quiet firelight, those mysteries continue flowing unseen through every living body in the camp. The next morning begins with hunger, not dramatic hunger, not the desperate kind that appears after days without food, just the familiar emptiness that greets every person after a night's sleep. You feel it yourself, a slight pulling sensation, a quiet awareness somewhere deep inside, a reminder that the body requires fuel. The people around the camp wake with the same feeling. Children rub sleepy eyes, hunters stretch stiff limbs, gatherers prepare woven containers and carrying slings. The fire is coaxed back to life. Thin streams of smoke rise into the cool dawn air, and before long, thoughts turn toward food. Food is never far from anyone's mind in prehistory. For most of human history, obtaining enough calories required significant daily effort. There were no grocery stores, no refrigerators, no delivery services, and certainly no mysterious packages arriving on the doorstep containing things you forgot you ordered 3 days earlier. Every meal depended on work, every meal depended on knowledge, every meal depended on the landscape itself. You walk with a small group leaving camp. The valley glows beneath early sunlight. Mist lingers above a nearby stream. Birds move through the trees, filling the morning with scattered calls. One woman carries a digging stick. Another carries woven baskets. A young boy follows behind, eager to help and perhaps equally eager to snack whenever possible. Some human behaviours remain remarkably consistent. As you travel, you begin thinking about a question that would seem obvious today. What happens to food after you eat it? You know the answer, at least broadly. Food enters the digestive system. Nutrients are absorbed. Energy is released. Complex biological processes transform plants and animals into fuel for living cells. The people beside you know none of this. They know that eating relieves hunger. They know that food provides strength. They know that starvation weakens the body. But the invisible processes connecting those observations remain hidden. A mainstream historical fact is that prehistoric humans developed highly sophisticated knowledge about food sources, seasonal availability, and nutrition through observation and experience, despite lacking scientific understanding of digestion. That distinction is important. Knowledge and explanation are not the same thing. You can know that berries provide energy without understanding glucose. You can know that certain foods prevent weakness without knowing vitamins exist. You can know what works without knowing why. The gatherers stop near a patch of edible roots. The soil is soft from recent moisture. Digging begins. The work is slow and patient. You kneel nearby and watch hands move carefully through the earth. The smell of fresh soil rises into the air. Roots emerge one by one. The process feels almost peaceful, yet everything depends on success. The body requires constant replenishment, and hunger serves as its messenger. Researchers continue to question exactly how prehistoric humans interpreted hunger itself. Without knowledge of metabolism or digestion, sensations inside the belly may have been understood through practical experience, spiritual beliefs, or combinations of both. After all, hunger is strange. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, yet it can influence nearly every decision you make. The feeling grows stronger if ignored, then weaker after eating. Something inside changes. But what? The answer would remain mysterious for countless generations. By midday, the baskets contain roots, seeds, and gathered plants. The group rests beneath the shade of scattered trees. The air is warmer now. Grass moves gently in the breeze. Someone shares dried food collected earlier. Everyone eats quietly. You take a moment to imagine what this experience would feel like without modern knowledge. You place food in your mouth, you chew, you swallow. Hours later, your body feels stronger. The connection is obvious. The mechanism is invisible. Inside your abdomen, digestion is already underway. Enzymes are working, nutrients are being absorbed, energy is being distributed, yet none of that can be felt directly. Instead, prehistoric humans experience only the outcomes. Strength returns, weakness fades, the body continues. A fascinating lesser-known detail comes from ancient human remains showing that prehistoric diets were often far more varied than people once assumed. Depending on region and season, some groups consumed dozens of different plant species along with fish, insects, nuts, fruits, and animal foods. The stereotype of prehistoric people eating only meat turns out to be surprisingly inaccurate. Human survival often depended upon flexibility. The body itself encouraged that flexibility through hunger. Hunger pushes exploration. Hunger rewards discovery. Hunger teaches adaptation. As the afternoon continues, you walk beside the young boy from earlier. He asks questions constantly. Questions about plants, questions about animals, questions about where food comes from. You smile. Children have always been remarkably committed to turning every journey into an interview. An older woman answers patiently, "This route is good. That berry is dangerous. These leaves help during certain seasons. Those seeds must be prepared carefully." Knowledge flows from one generation to another. No textbooks are required. The body itself provides feedback. Eat the wrong thing and consequences follow. Eat the right thing and life continues. It is a brutally effective educational system. You reach a small stream. Water flows over smooth stones. The group pauses to drink. Cool air rises from the surface. The sound of moving water fills the silence. You think again about digestion. Even today, most people rarely think about what happens after a meal. The process operates automatically. The stomach works, the intestines work, the liver works. Everything continues quietly in the background. In prehistory, those hidden activities were even more mysterious. Some historians suggest that early humans may have viewed the belly as a center of vitality or power, simply because hunger and fullness felt so important to daily life, while others caution that evidence remains too limited for firm conclusions. Either way, the stomach would have seemed remarkable. When empty, it demands attention. When satisfied, it rewards you with comfort. A fairly influential organ for something nobody can actually see. Back at camp, preparations for the evening meal begin. The familiar smells return: smoke, cooked roots, roasting food, warm earth, cooling beneath lengthening shadows. People gather near the fire. Children settle beside parents. Conversations drift through the camp. You notice something interesting. No one discusses calories. No one discusses protein. No one discusses digestive enzymes. Yet everyone possesses practical dietary knowledge accumulated through generations. Which foods are filling, which foods are seasonal, which foods are worth the effort, which foods should be avoided. This knowledge keeps the group alive. Theoretical understanding can wait another few thousand years. The sun finally slips below the horizon. Darkness spreads across the valley once more. Firelight dances across faces. The meal begins. People eat slowly, contentedly. The hungry feeling that guided the day gradually fades. And once again, the body performs countless invisible tasks. Food breaks apart. Nutrients move into the bloodstream. Energy becomes available. Cells continue their work. The people around you remain unaware of the microscopic complexity unfolding inside them. Yet perhaps there is something beautiful about that. You do not need to understand digestion to appreciate a meal. You do not need to understand metabolism to enjoy warmth returning after hunger. The body has always carried hidden mysteries. Prehistoric humans lived with those mysteries every day. They felt hunger, they sought food, they ate, they regained strength, and from their perspective, that cycle may have seemed almost magical. As the fire crackles softly in the darkness, you place another piece of wood onto the flames. The sparks rise toward the stars. Around you, people settle into comfortable silence. Their bellies are full, their bodies are busy, and deep inside, countless processes continue unseen, transforming the day's harvest into tomorrow's survival. Night returns gently. The camp is eaten. The tools have been set aside, and the last warm colours of sunset have faded from the western sky. The valley now rests beneath a deep blue darkness. Smoke from the fire rises slowly, almost lazily, as if even the smoke is getting ready for sleep. You sit near the edge of the flames. The ground is cool beneath your legs. A hide covering rests over your shoulders, around you. People settle into the familiar quiet of evening. Someone murmurs softly to a child. Someone adjusts a sleeping place near the shelter wall. A dog-like animal. Not quite the comfortable pet of modern homes, but not fully wild either. Curls near the warmth and sighs with impressive dramatic timing. Sleep is coming, and in prehistory, sleep is not just rest, it is mystery, before you lie down. It helps to understand the world surrounding these sleepers. There are no clocks, no electric lamps, no glowing phone screens quietly stealing one more hour of the night. Time follows the sun, the moon, the stars, the seasons, and the body's own tiredness. Darkness is not an inconvenience here. Darkness is the rhythm of life. A mainstream historical fact is that prehistoric humans likely slept in patterns shaped by natural light, temperature, fire, social safety, and seasonal changes rather than by fixed modern schedules. That does not mean every night was perfect. Nature is not a spa. Despite what some peaceful documentaries may suggest, cold wind could interrupt sleep, insects could interrupt sleep, distant animal sounds could interrupt sleep, a child waking hungry could interrupt sleep. The human body has always been very creative about finding reasons not to rest. Still, the people around you understand tiredness clearly. They know that after long walking, gathering, carrying and watching, the body asks for stillness. They know that sleep restores strength. They know that a person who goes without sleep becomes slower, irritable, confused, and less useful to the group. But they do not know what sleep is doing inside the brain. They do not know about memory consolidation. They do not know about sleep cycles. They do not know why dreams arrive. You lie back and look upward. The stars seem close enough to touch. The fire crackles. A faint smell of ash and cooked food lingers in the air. Your eyelids grow heavy, and somewhere nearby, a sleeper begins to dream. You can tell by the small movements. A finger twitches. The face shifts. Breathing changes. Perhaps the dreamer is walking through a remembered valley. Perhaps hearing a voice from childhood. Perhaps running from something that no longer exists when morning comes. Dreams must have been among the most puzzling experiences in human life. You close your eyes and imagine what they might have seemed like without modern explanations. You sleep. Then you see things. People who are far away appear beside you. The dead may speak. Animals may transform. Places change. Fear rises. Joy returns. Then you wake, still lying where you began. How strange. How deeply strange. Researchers still debate how prehistoric communities understood dreams, since dreams leave no direct archaeological trace. Some scholars suggest they may have influenced early spiritual beliefs, while others warn that we must be careful not to project later traditions too far back in time. The uncertainty is part of the quiet wonder. We cannot sit beside these people and ask what last night's dream meant to them. We can only imagine. Yet dreaming is universal enough that every human group must have faced the question: where do we go when we sleep? Why do absent people return? Why do frightening images vanish at dawn? Why does the mind continue when the body lies still, the fire lowers? A few coals glow red beneath blackened wood. The camp becomes a landscape of breathing bodies. You hear the soft rustle of coverings, a faint murmur of someone turning over, a sleepy cough, the night wind brushing grass beyond the shelter. A quirky, lesser-known detail is that some researchers studying traditional societies have found that people without artificial lighting often experience long periods of rest, broken by quiet waking intervals during the night. This does not prove prehistoric sleep worked exactly the same way, but it reminds us that the modern 8-hour block is not the only possible human pattern, so when someone in this camp wakes in the middle of the night, it may not feel like failure, it may simply be part of the night. A person wakes, listens, feeds the fire, looks at the stars, checks the child nearby, then returns to sleep. No panic, no checking the time, no lying there thinking. Wonderful. Now I have 4 hours before work and my brain has chosen philosophy. The prehistoric night allows wakefulness to be quieter. You rise softly and move toward the fire. A watchful elder is already awake. The elder adds a small branch to the coals. Flame returns slowly, licking the dry wood. Warm light spreads over sleeping forms. You sit nearby. Neither of you speaks. There is no need in this world. Safety depends partly on shared sleep. Someone rests while someone listens. The body's never entirely separate from the group. Sleep is personal, yes, but also social. You sleep better when others are near. You dream beneath the protection of familiar breathing. Some historians suggest that communal sleeping arrangements may have shaped early human feelings of safety and belonging, while others emphasize practical needs like warmth, predator awareness, and child care. Both views may be true. A sleeping body is vulnerable. A group makes vulnerability survivable. The elder stares into the fire. You wonder what dreams have visited this person across a lifetime. Dreams of lost relatives. Dreams of animals seen during youth. Dreams of rivers crossed long ago. Dreams perhaps understood as memory, warning, message, or wandering spirit. In your modern world, dreams are often dismissed quickly. You wake and say, "That was weird." Then you make coffee and move on. But here, a dream might matter. It might be told in the morning. It might influence caution, hope, or ritual. It might become part of a story repeated beside fires like this one. Eventually, you return to your resting place. The ground is firm but not uncomfortable. The hide over you holds warmth. Smoke drifts through the shelter opening. Your breathing slows. You think about the sleeping brain, hidden inside the skull, creating images no one can explain. The people around you do not know that the brain is producing dreams. They may not even imagine the brain as the center of the self. To them, the dream might come from elsewhere, from the night, from the ancestors, from the animal world, from some unseen layer of reality brushing softly against the ordinary life. And honestly, when the fire is low and the stars are bright, even modern certainty feels little less certain. Sleep deepens across the camp. The valley grows still. Only the fire remains awake, glowing softly in the darkness. Inside each sleeper, the body repairs itself. The brain organizes memory, the heart keeps rhythm, breath moves in and out. Dreams rise like smoke, take shape for a moment, and disappear before dawn. Prehistoric humans may not understand these hidden processes, but they know the feeling of morning after good sleep. They know the relief of waking warm. They know the strange aftertaste of a dream. They know the quiet miracle of returning from the darkness still alive. And as your own eyes close beside the ancient fire, you begin to understand why sleep could feel not only necessary, but sacred. The night air feels cool against your skin. You wake sometime before dawn, not because of danger, but because the fire has burned low. The camp remains quiet. Most people are still asleep beneath layers of hide and woven coverings. A few glowing coals pulse softly in the darkness, casting faint red light across the ground. For a moment, all you hear is breathing, slow, steady, rhythmic. The sound blends with distant insects, and the occasional whisper of wind moving through grass beyond the camp. Then you notice something else, a heartbeat, not your own. Someone sleeping nearby lies close enough that you can hear the faint thump through the silence. It is a small sound, easy to overlook, yet it has accompanied every moment of your life, long before you learned language, long before you formed memories, long before you understood anything about the world. Your heart was already beating. The people around you know that too. They may not understand how the heart works, but they understand that it matters. A body with a heartbeat is alive. A body without one is not. That much is obvious. Everything beyond that becomes far less certain. You sit beside the fading fire and place your hand against your chest. The steady rhythm continues. You cannot command it directly, you cannot stop it for long. You cannot explain it using prehistoric knowledge. All you can do is feel it. And for most of human history, feeling was the only evidence available. One of the clearest findings from the archaeological and historical record is that humans across countless cultures recognized the heart as something profoundly important, long before they understood circulation or cardiovascular biology. That recognition makes sense. The heartbeat is one of the few internal bodily processes you can detect without special tools. Run across a field and it races, rest beside a fire and it slows, become frightened and it pounds, become calm and it softens. The connection between emotion and heartbeat feels obvious. The explanation does not. Nearby, an elder slowly wakes. The old woman stretches stiff arms toward the warmth of the coals. Her movements are careful. Her breathing is slightly heavier than that of younger members of the camp. Age has changed her body. The changes arrived gradually, over many years, perhaps so gradually that she barely noticed them happening. You walk with her toward a nearby stream as dawn begins brightening the eastern horizon. Mist hangs low over the water. The air smells fresh and cool. Birdsong starts hesitantly, then grows stronger as more creatures greet the morning. The elder pauses to catch her breath after climbing a small slope. Nothing dramatic, just a brief pause, a few deeper breaths. Then she continues. You find yourself thinking about breathing. Breathing is another mystery hidden in plain sight. Every person understands that air matters. Cover your mouth and nose for too long and panic follows. Run hard enough and your lungs demand more. Sit quietly and breathing slows again. Yet what exactly enters the body? What exactly leaves? The answer remained hidden for nearly all of human existence. Evidence from prehistoric life suggests that people became extraordinary observers of physical endurance. Survival often required tracking animals, carrying resources, travelling long distances, and adapting to difficult environments. The people around you know endurance intimately. They know which hills steal breath. They know how cold air feels in the lungs. They know the exhaustion that follows prolonged effort. What they do not know is oxygen. They do not know red blood cells. They do not know gas exchange. Their understanding comes entirely through experience. And experience teaches powerful lessons. The sun finally breaks above the horizon. Golden light spreads across the valley. The camp begins waking fully. Children emerge from shelters. Smoke rises from newly lit fires. Someone laughs. Someone yawns dramatically enough to suggest it may qualify as a competitive activity. The familiar rhythm of daily life resumes as people prepare for the day. You notice how often they touch their own bodies. A hand against the chest after exertion. A deep breath after carrying weight. A pause to recover after climbing, without realizing it. They are constantly monitoring internal signals. Humans have always done this. The body speaks, not with words, but with sensations. A racing heart, a tight chest, a calming breath, a feeling of energy, a feeling of fatigue. The challenge lies in interpretation. You follow several hunters preparing for a journey away from camp before leaving. They eat lightly and drink water from skin containers. The morning remains cool, but the day promises warmth. As they walk, the pace gradually increases. Soon breathing grows heavier, sweat appears, hearts beat faster, muscles begin demanding more energy. The hunters understand these changes well. They have experienced them thousands of times. But imagine how strange the process would appear without modern knowledge. You begin walking, your heart accelerates, your breathing changes, your skin grows warm. Then, after resting, everything slowly returns to normal. Something inside adjusts constantly, something intelligent, something automatic, something invisible. The deeper mystery lies in how ancient people explain those changes. Several competing theories exist regarding how prehistoric communities may have interpreted the heart and breath. Some researchers believe practical observations dominated daily life, while others suspect spiritual explanations often blended with physical experience. The two possibilities are not mutually exclusive. A heartbeat can feel both biological and meaningful. Breath can feel both practical and sacred. Even today, many traditions connect breath with life itself. That connection may reach back far into humanity's past. An intriguing detail comes from later ancient languages around the world, many of which use the same word for breath: spirit, soul, or life force. While we cannot directly project those beliefs into deep prehistory, they hint at how naturally humans connect breathing with existence itself. The connection is understandable. The first thing a newborn does is breathe. One of the last things a dying person does is breathe. The relationship feels profound even without scientific explanation. By midday, heat settles across the landscape. The hunters rest beneath scattered trees. Everyone breathes more slowly now. The rush of movement has ended. A cool breeze provides relief. You sit quietly and listen. Wind in leaves, insects humming, breath moving in and out. The sounds merge into something peaceful. You begin to appreciate how little prehistoric humans actually needed to know about physiology in order to survive. They did not require knowledge of cardiac muscle. They did not require understanding of pulmonary function. The heart worked whether they understood it or not. The lungs worked whether they understood them or not. Biology does not wait for explanation. It simply continues. As afternoon drifts toward evening, you return to camp. The elder sits beside the fire again. Children play nearby. The familiar smells of cooking food spread through the air. The valley settles into its nightly rhythm. You place a hand against your chest once more. The heartbeat remains steady, reliable, patient, quietly persistent. Somewhere inside every person around you, hearts continue beating without instruction. Lungs continue drawing air. Life continues. The people of this camp may not understand arteries, oxygen, or circulation, yet they understand something equally important. They understand attention. They notice changes. They recognize weakness. They value recovery. They respect the signals their bodies provide. And perhaps that is where all human understanding begins. Not with theories, not with textbooks, but with listening. The fire crackles softly. Darkness gathers around the camp. Breathing slows. Hearts continue their ancient rhythm. And beneath the stars, humanity remains surrounded by mysteries still hidden beneath skin, bone, and breath. By morning, something in the camp has changed. Not loudly, not with panic, just with a quieter mood than usual. The fire still burns, smoke still rises, children still move sleepily near the shelters, but near one side of the camp, an adult lies beneath a hide covering, breathing through a rough cough that seems to pull from deep inside the chest. You hear it before you see the person. A dry sound, then silence, then another cough. The people nearby glance over. not alarmed yet, but attentive. Illness has entered the camp. In this world, sickness is one of the most confusing experiences a body can have. A cut can be seen, a swollen ankle can be touched. Hunger can be answered with food, but fever, coughing, weakness, chills, and body aches often arrive without visible cause. Before you step closer, it helps to understand the larger setting. Prehistoric communities lived close to animals, soil, water, insects, smoke, and weather. They moved through landscapes that offered food and shelter, but also parasites, contaminated water, injuries, and seasonal stress. There were no microscopes, no antibiotics, no thermometers, and no idea that invisible organisms might pass from one body to another. The sick person turns slightly under the covering. Sweat shines on the forehead. The morning air is cool, yet the skin seems hot. A woman kneels nearby and touches the face with the back of her hand. This is temperature measured by touch. Simple, imprecise, human. You've probably done the same thing without thinking. One widely accepted conclusion is that prehistoric humans suffered from infectious diseases, parasites, respiratory problems, dental infections, and injuries that could become dangerous without modern treatment. But the people here do not know the word infection. They do not know bacteria. They do not know viruses. They do not know that a cough can carry tiny particles through the air. They only know that one person was strong yesterday and weak today. And that is unsettling enough. You sit near the sick person and listen. The breathing is uneven. The cough comes again. A child watches from a distance, curious but hesitant. Someone leads the child away gently, not because anyone understands germ theory, but because people often notice patterns long before they can explain them. If several people become ill after staying close to one another, the memory remains. If a particular water source makes stomachs twist, the group remembers. If smoke, cold rain, or spoiled food seems followed by sickness, people pay attention. The body and the environment are always in conversation. Prehistoric survival depends on hearing that conversation clearly. The woman caring for the sick person brings water. The person drinks slowly. Some plant material is warmed near the fire. Perhaps it is meant to soothe the throat. Perhaps the steam helps breathing. Perhaps it carries meaning beyond physical relief. In a world where illness is mysterious, every small act of care matters. An often overlooked detail from ancient human remains is that some individuals survived conditions that would have made life difficult, including injuries, deformities, or long-term weakness. This suggests that prehistoric groups sometimes supported people who could not fully care for themselves. That does not mean every life was gentle. It was not. But it does challenge the simple idea that prehistory was only harsh competition. Care existed. Patience existed. Someone brought water. Someone shared food. Someone stayed nearby through the fever. The day grows warmer. The camp continues its work, though a little more quietly than before. Tools must still be repaired. Food must still be gathered. Children must still be watched. Illness does not pause daily life. It simply bends it. You walk with two gatherers toward the stream. The air smells of wet stones, green plants, and wood smoke drifting from behind you. The path is familiar now. Your feet know where the ground dips and where roots cross the trail. One gatherer speaks softly about the sick person. You cannot understand the words, but you understand the tone, concern, memory, maybe comparison. This cough is like another cough from last winter. This fever resembles the one that passed through the camp after heavy rain. That person recovered. That person did not. Human beings build knowledge from remembered patterns. The question remains open among specialists about how prehistoric people distinguish different illnesses. Without written records, we cannot know how they categorized fever, stomach pain, coughing, swelling, or weakness. They may have grouped symptoms by appearance, cause, season, spirit, food, place, or social meaning. Their categories would not match ours, but they didn't need to. They needed to decide what to do. Rest, warmth, water, plants, distance, ritual, waiting. These were the available tools at the stream. One gatherer fills a container and studies the water carefully. Clear water flows over stones. Still. Clear water is not always safe. Modern people know that. Prehistoric people could not see microbes, but they might notice that certain pools brought sickness more often than flowing water. They might avoid places where animals had gathered. They might prefer springs, streams, or water remembered as safe. Again, experience becomes a kind of science before science has a name. You return to camp in the afternoon. The sick person sleeps. The coughing has quieted for now. A thin line of smoke drifts through the shelter entrance. The fire beside them is smaller than the main campfire, enough to provide warmth without filling the space too heavily with smoke. The caregiver sits nearby, working on a simple task while watching. This is another ancient rhythm. Care does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like waiting. Sometimes it looks like staying within reach. Sometimes it looks like listening to breath. You notice how illness changes the emotional weather of the camp. People lower their voices near the shelter. Food is offered. Children are gently redirected. The body of one person affects the mood of many. A fever is biological. Yes, but it's also social. If one hunter cannot travel, plans shift. If a gatherer cannot walk, others carry more. If several people fall ill at once, the camp becomes vulnerable. Sickness is never only inside the body, it spreads into daily life. A curious clue from archaeology is that dental infections appear in some prehistoric remains, sometimes severe enough to affect the jawbone. Tooth trouble was not just a small inconvenience. It could become a serious health problem long before toothbrushes, fillings, or modern dentistry existed. You think back to the earlier lesson of pain, a toothache, a cough, a fever, a wound turning hot. Each one offered evidence that something inside the body could go wrong without being visible. No wonder illness invited explanations beyond the ordinary. A person might be struck by unseen forces, a place might be dangerous, a spirit might be angry, a food might be polluted, a wind might carry harm. Some of these ideas sound distant from modern medicine. But not all are foolish in their observations. Bad water really can bring sickness. Certain foods really can poison. Cold stress really can weaken resilience. Close contact really can spread disease. They lacked the invisible details, but not always the practical warnings. Evening settles slowly. The sky turns copper, then violet. The sick person wakes and drinks again. The caregiver speaks quietly. The campfire grows brighter as darkness returns. You sit nearby, feeling the cool air at your back and the warmth on your face. The cough comes once more, softer this time. No one knows what tomorrow will bring. Recovery often arrives slowly. Sometimes it does not arrive at all. But tonight, there is water. There is warmth. There is someone watching. The people around you do not understand germs. They do not understand immune cells gathering inside the body. They do not know that fever can be part of the body's defense. Yet they know sickness requires attention. They know weakness should not be ignored. They know breath matters. They know warmth comforts. They know the sick should not always be left alone. And beneath the shelter, inside the sleeping body, an invisible struggle continues. Cells respond, heat rises, breath moves, the heart keeps time. The camp cannot see any of it, so they listen instead to coughing, to breathing, to silence, to mourning. And in that listening, you can hear the beginning of medicine. Long before medicine had a name, the fever has eased, at least for now. When morning arrives, the person who spent yesterday coughing beneath the shelter sits upright near the fire. The face still looks tired. The movements are slower than usual, but there is colour in the cheeks again. And a small bowl of food rests in the person's hands. The camp seems lighter, not dramatically, just enough that you notice it. A few children laugh more freely. Conversations drift more easily through the morning air. The worry that settled over everyone yesterday has loosened its grip. You sit beside the fire and watch a woman sort through a collection of dried plants. Some are leaves, some are roots, some are bundles tied together with thin fibres. Each has been gathered from somewhere beyond the camp. Each carries a story, and each represents one of humanity's oldest attempts to understand the body. Long before laboratories, long before pharmacies, long before scientific journals, there were hands gathering plants beneath open skies. The morning is cool and pleasant. Smoke rises in pale ribbons. Sunlight filters through nearby trees. The scent of crushed herbs mixes with the smell of wood ash and damp soil. The woman selects several leaves and places them into a small container. You follow as she walks toward the recovering patient. Nothing about her movements suggests certainty. That is important. Ancient healing was rarely about certainty. It was about probability, memory, observation, hope. One well-supported finding from archaeology and ethnobotany is that human communities have used medicinal plants for tens of thousands of years. Knowledge about useful herbs likely developed gradually through generations of trial, error, and careful observation. That process was neither quick nor easy. Imagine discovering which plants help a headache, which plants calm an upset stomach, which plants ease inflammation, which plants are harmless, and perhaps more importantly, which plants should never be eaten at all. Nature can be generous. Nature can also be remarkably unfriendly. The woman crushes the leaves between stones. A strong scent fills the air. She mixes the material with water and offers it to the recovering patient. Will it help? Perhaps. Perhaps not. But someone before her likely observed something worth remembering. Someone noticed that a particular plant seemed useful. Someone told others. The information survived. Knowledge moved forward. You realize that prehistoric medicine often depended upon collective memory rather than individual expertise. No one person discovered everything. Thousands of observations accumulated across generations. The result was a growing body of practical wisdom. Not scientific in the modern sense, but valuable nonetheless. As the day continues, you accompany a group heading into the surrounding landscape. Their purpose is partly food gathering, partly exploration, and partly collecting useful materials. The valley stretches before you beneath bright sunlight. Grasslands ripple in the breeze. Birds circle overhead. Insects hum among wildflowers. The world feels peaceful, yet hidden among these plants are medicines, poisons, foods, and mysteries. The challenge is knowing which is which. An intriguing detail comes from archaeological discoveries showing traces of medicinal plants in some ancient human sites, in a few cases. Researchers have found evidence suggesting that certain herbs may have been selected for reasons beyond simple nutrition. The evidence is not always straightforward. Still, it hints at something fascinating. People were experimenting, observing, learning. The group stops beside a patch of low-growing plants. An elder kneels carefully. Several younger members watch. The elder points, touches a leaf, crushes it gently, allows others to smell it. This is education. No classroom, no textbook, no examination waiting at the end. Just experience shared directly. You notice how often touch appears in prehistoric healing. A hand checking temperature, fingers examining a wound. Pressure applied to sore muscles, plants rubbed onto skin. Touch may be one of humanity's oldest medicines, not because it cures every illness, because it communicates safety. A frightened child calms when held. An injured person feels less alone when cared for. A recovering patient gains reassurance from attention. The body responds to more than physical treatment. It responds to comfort, Researchers continue to explore how much prehistoric healing relied upon social and psychological effects alongside practical remedies. Since body and mind constantly influence one another, separating the two may be more difficult than it first appears. The question remains fascinating. A plant may help, a caring presence may help, a person's expectation may help. Sometimes all three work together. By midday, the sun stands high overhead, the group rests beneath scattered trees. Shade offers relief from the heat. You drink cool water and listen to quiet conversation. Nearby, one of the younger gatherers rubs a sore shoulder. The elder notices, without hesitation. The older person begins pressing and kneading the muscles gently. The younger gatherer relaxes. You watch the process. Again, no anatomical terminology, no discussion of tendons or muscle fibers, just practical experience. This hurts, this pressure helps. That knowledge alone can be powerful. The deeper mystery lies in how prehistoric people understood healing itself. Imagine watching a wound close over several days. Imagine watching fever gradually disappear. Imagine seeing pain fade after rest, without knowledge of cells, immune systems, or tissue repair. Healing might seem almost magical. Something invisible transforms weakness into strength. Something hidden rebuilds damaged flesh. Something within the body restores balance. You begin to understand why ancient healing traditions often blended observation with wonder. The body truly is remarkable. Even today, most people cannot consciously direct the processes repairing a cut or fighting an infection. Healing happens beyond awareness. Modern science explains much of it. Experiencing it still feels extraordinary. The afternoon passes slowly. The group returns to camp carrying gathered plants, roots, and food. Children run out to greet them. Smoke drifts upward from cooking fires. The recovering patient now walks short distances around the camp, still tired, still healing, but improving. Several people smile when they notice. Recovery lifts everyone. The camp settles into its familiar evening rhythm. Food cooks, stories begin, tools are repaired. The valley cools beneath approaching twilight. A curious pattern emerges as you watch. No one claims complete understanding. No one possesses perfect solutions. Yet people continue trying. They experiment. They remember. They teach. They care. That persistence becomes one of humanity's greatest strengths. The woman who prepared the herbs sits quietly beside the fire. Perhaps some of her remedies work. Perhaps others work only occasionally. Perhaps some work for reasons she could never explain. Yet the effort matters. Knowledge grows through countless small attempts. As darkness settles across the landscape, stars begin appearing overhead. The recovering patient lies down to rest once more. The cough has almost disappeared. The fever seems gone. Somewhere inside the body, immune cells have fought a battle no one in the camp could possibly see. No one understands white blood cells. No one understands inflammation. No one understands antibodies. The victory remains invisible. All anyone sees is the outcome. Yesterday, weakness. Today, improvement. Tomorrow, perhaps health. The fire crackles softly. Warm light dances across faces. You sit quietly and think about the long path of human medicine. It did not begin in hospitals. It began in places like this, beside fires, along riverbanks, among roots and leaves, with careful observation, patient memory, gentle hands, and people trying to help one another understand bodies that remained, in many ways, mysterious. The stars brighten overhead. The night grows deeper, the camp grows quieter, and somewhere beyond the firelight, plants continue growing in the darkness, waiting to become tomorrow's food, tomorrow's remedy, or tomorrow's lesson. The next days pass softly. The fever fades into memory. The camp returns to its ordinary rhythm of gathering, repairing, watching, cooking, resting, and listening to the land. Morning smoke rises. Children argue over small treasures. Adults pretend not to hear every argument, which is a very ancient survival strategy. But now your attention is drawn toward another shelter. Near the warmth of the fire, a pregnant woman sits with one hand resting on her rounded belly. She is quiet, not frightened exactly, not calm exactly, somewhere between the two, around her. Other women move with gentle purpose. One brings water, another arranges soft hides. An elder sits nearby, watching with a patient expression of someone who has seen this before. Birth is approaching. In this prehistoric world, pregnancy and childbirth are among the greatest mysteries of the body. Everyone understands the outward pattern. A woman's belly grows. Her movements change. Months pass. Then, if all goes well, a child arrives. But the hidden process inside remains unseen. There are no ultrasound images, no anatomy books, no medical charts, no precise calculation of fetal development, only observation, memory, and waiting. Evidence from human evolution shows that childbirth became especially complex in our species because humans developed large brains while also walking upright. The shape of the pelvis and the size of the infant head made birth difficult compared with many other mammals. The people around you do not know evolutionary anatomy. They do not know pelvic constraints. They do not know the stages of labour in clinical language. But they know birth requires care. They know it can be dangerous. They know it can bring joy, fear, relief, and grief into the same small space. You sit at a respectful distance as evening approaches. The air cools, smoke from the fire drifts low across the camp. The pregnant woman shifts her position and breathes slowly. A child nearby watches with wide eyes until another adult gently leads the child away. There is a quiet boundary around this moment. Not secrecy, more like focus. The camp understands that something important is happening. Birth belongs to the body, but it also belongs to the group. A new child means another mouth to feed, another life to protect, another future voice beside the fire. It is intimate and communal at once. A lesser-known aspect of prehistoric life involves the possibility that birth assistance may be extremely ancient. Some researchers have suggested that because human childbirth can be difficult, cooperative support during labour may have deep roots in our species. The idea feels natural when you watch the women gather. One person alone may be afraid. Several calm hands nearby change the entire room, or in this case, the entire shelter. Someone offers water, someone speaks gently, someone adjusts the bedding, someone listens to the rhythm of breath. Modern people often imagine prehistory as rough and silent, but this scene is full of careful attention. The woman's face tightens as a wave of pain passes through her. She grips another person's hand. No one explains contractions. No one speaks of the uterus as a muscle. No one knows about the placenta or hormones in the way you do now, yet everyone recognizes the pattern. Pain rises, pain fades, time passes, the body continues. You think back to earlier sections of this journey. The mystery of pain, the mystery of blood, the mystery of breath. Now all of them gather in one place. Birth includes pain, blood, breath, hunger, exhaustion, warmth, fear, touch, and hope. It is almost as if the body brings every secret it has into the firelight. The question remains open among specialists about how prehistoric communities understood reproduction in detail. Some may have recognized the connection between sex and pregnancy clearly, while others may have explained fertility through a mixture of practical knowledge, seasonal patterns, spiritual ideas, and social teachings. It is easy to assume everyone always understood reproduction the way we do, but the long delay between conception and birth makes the connection less obvious than it might seem. Months pass. Bodies change slowly. Many pregnancies do not continue. Some births bring more than one child. Some couples have many children. Others have none. Without biology, heredity and fertility could appear deeply mysterious. You look around the shelter. The firelight trembles across woven fibres, stone tools, and faces marked by concentration. The air smells of smoke, warm hides, sweat, and crushed plants. Outside, the night world continues, insects hum, a distant animal calls, wind brushes through grass. Inside, time seems to slow. The woman breathes, the elder murmurs, the others wait. Waiting is one of the oldest parts of medicine. There are moments when action is possible. There are moments when comfort is possible. And there are moments when everyone must simply remain close while the body does what only the body can do. Hours pass. The camp outside grows quiet. Most people sleep, though not deeply. They listen in the way communities listen when something important is unfolding nearby. The woman's breathing grows stronger. Her body works with a force no one can fully command. Modern science can describe the process in detail, but description is not the same as experience. Even today, childbirth remains powerful, unpredictable, and humbling in prehistory. It must have seemed like a passage between worlds, one body becoming two lives, one heartbeat joined by another, one hidden presence becoming visible, at last, near the deepest part of night. A newborn cry rises inside the shelter. It is small, thin, startling. Then the sound strengthens. The entire camp seems to breathe out. Someone outside the shelter smiles in the darkness. A child wakes briefly and asks a question no one answers properly. That is also traditional. Inside, the baby is held close. The infant's skin glistens in the firelight. The mother looks exhausted, pale, and relieved. The elder checks the child with gentle hands. Warmth matters immediately. Breath matters immediately. Milk will matter soon. No one knows about colostrum antibodies or newborn immune systems, but they know the baby must be held close. They know the mother needs rest. They know the first hours are fragile. An interesting clue from later traditional societies is that childbirth knowledge often belongs strongly to experienced women, whose practical skills were passed through observation and participation. While we cannot map those practices directly onto deep prehistory, the pattern of learned birth support likely has very old roots. You sit quietly as the shelter settles. The baby's cry softens into tiny breaths. The mother's eyes close. Someone feeds the fire, someone warms water, someone whispers words that sound like reassurance. The body has done something astonishing, and almost none of its hidden mechanisms were understood. Cells divided for months, bones formed, organs developed. A heart began beating before anyone could hear it. A brain began shaping itself in darkness. All of this happened inside the mother's body, beyond sight, beyond language, beyond explanation. And then, suddenly, the child was here. The night feels different now, not louder, not brighter, just changed. A new body has joined the camp. A new set of mysteries has begun. The people around you may not understand anatomy, fertility, genetics, hormones, or embryonic development. Yet they understand the sacred weight of care. They understand that birth is dangerous and precious. They understand that a newborn must be warmed, fed, protected, and welcomed. Sometimes survival begins not with knowledge, but with attention. The fire crackles softly. The newborn sleeps against the mother's chest. Outside, stars continue to shine over the valley, and beneath their quiet light, life continues its oldest story, passing from one body into another, hidden for months, revealed in a single fragile breath. Morning arrives with a new sound, a baby's cry, small, sharp, impossible to ignore. The newborn from the previous night rests close to the mother beside the fire. Several adults glance over whenever the child stirs. The camp has not changed completely, yet everything feels slightly different. A new life has entered the circle, and now another mystery begins. Growth. You sit near the shelter and watch the infant sleep. The tiny fingers curl and uncurl. The chest rises and falls rapidly. The face shifts through expressions that seem surprisingly serious for someone who arrived only hours ago. You might even wonder what occupies the mind of a newborn. Then again, most adults are still trying to figure out what occupies the minds of other adults. Some mysteries remain stubborn. The morning air carries the smell of smoke and dew. Sunlight spreads slowly across the valley floor. Birds move between trees while insects warm themselves on stones. Around you, children of many ages move through camp. A toddler wobbles after an older sibling. A young boy practices throwing a small stick. A girl helps carry gathered plants with great determination and only moderate success. Everywhere you look, bodies are growing, and yet almost none of the people around you understand how growth happens. Archaeological evidence shows that prehistoric children experienced developmental stages broadly similar to those of modern children. They learned skills gradually, grew physically over many years, and depended heavily upon social learning within their communities. The people around you know this through experience. Babies become toddlers, toddlers become children, children become adults. The pattern repeats, the explanation remains hidden. You watch the newborn's mother carefully position the child for feeding. The baby settles. The camp continues its work. Life moves forward. No one here understands nutrients travelling through milk. No one knows about brain development. No one can explain the astonishing number of biological changes taking place inside that tiny body. Yet growth continues regardless. Cells divide. Bones lengthen. Connections form inside the brain. The body follows instructions written long before anyone learned to write. You walk through the camp during the morning. Children are everywhere, not standing still, rarely quiet, and often involved in projects that seem only loosely connected to safety. A little boy proudly displays a strange collection of stones he's gathered. Another child follows an insect with complete concentration. A group invents a game using sticks, laughter, and rules that appear to change every few minutes. Some things truly are timeless. The deeper mystery lies in how prehistoric people understood childhood itself. Today we know that children develop mentally and physically through a combination of biology, nutrition, environment, learning, and social interaction. The people around you witness the outcomes, but they cannot see the machinery beneath them. Why does one child grow taller quickly? Why does another learn certain skills faster? Why do some survive illness while others do not? Why does a baby eventually learn to speak? These questions would have seemed enormous. A fascinating detail often overlooked is that human childhood is unusually long compared with many other animals. Human offspring remain dependent for years, creating extended periods of learning that may have played a major role in our evolutionary success. You can see evidence of that success all around you. Children are constantly observing, constantly copying, constantly practicing. One young girl watches an elder preparing fibres for cordage. She does not help much, at least not yet. Mostly she watches, but watching matters. Knowledge enters through the eyes long before the hands become skilled. Nearby, another child imitates the movements of a hunter. The performance is not especially convincing. The imaginary prey appears thoroughly unconcerned. Still, practice is taking place. The child is learning. You realize something remarkable. Much of what prehistoric people knew about the body came from watching children grow. Every family observed transformation. The helpless infant becomes the walking child. The walking child becomes the capable adolescent. The change unfolds gradually but relentlessly. Researchers continue to explore how prehistoric communities interpreted developmental milestones, while the physical stages are universal. The meanings attached to those stages likely varied across cultures and periods. A first step, a first word, a first successful hunt, a first gathering trip. These moments probably carried significance far beyond the practical. They marked visible proof that growth was occurring. The sun climbs higher. Heat settles over the valley. Several children play near the stream while adults keep a careful eye on them. The water sparkles in the sunlight. Dragonflies skim across the surface. A small child slips on a stone and lands in shallow water with dramatic outrage. The injury is minimal, the complaint is substantial. Again, some traditions are ancient. The child is quickly comforted. Soon the crisis is forgotten. What interests you is how naturally everyone responds. The camp invests enormous attention in its young. Not because childhood is easy, because childhood is essential. Every skill possessed by adults must eventually pass into younger hands. Knowledge survives through people, and people begin as children. By afternoon, the newborn is sleeping peacefully. The mother rests nearby. Several older women check on both regularly. No one measures weight. No one tracks growth charts. No one compares percentiles. Instead, people rely on observation. Is the child feeding? Is the child warm? Is the child breathing comfortably? Is the child gaining strength? The questions are simple, yet they touch the heart of survival. An intriguing clue from studies of prehistoric remains is that childhood stress, malnutrition, and illness sometimes leave traces in developing bones and teeth. These markers allow modern researchers to glimpse some of the challenges ancient children faced. Not every childhood was easy. Food shortages occurred. Illness occurred. Accidents occurred. The camp around you understands that life is fragile. Perhaps that fragility makes each successful stage of growth feel even more meaningful. As evening approaches, children gather near the fire, stories begin. Some listen carefully. Others pretend not to listen while absorbing every word. The newborn sleeps through most of it. Probably a wise decision. You watch the older children studying the adults around them. They are learning far more than stories. They are learning how to move, how to speak, how to respond to fear, how to care for others, how to belong. No one understands neural development. No one understands synaptic growth. No one understands the astonishing complexity unfolding inside young brains. But they understand that children need guidance. That understanding alone carries tremendous value. The fire glows warmly against the growing darkness. The valley becomes quiet once more. The children settle near parents and relatives. The newborn remains wrapped securely against the mother's side. You think about the mystery of growth. Every person around this fire once fit into someone's arms. Every adult was once a child learning how to walk. Every elder was once an infant staring at firelight with wide eyes. The process feels ordinary because it happens constantly, yet viewed closely, it is extraordinary. Bodies becoming larger, minds becoming more capable, experience accumulating year after year. The people around you cannot explain growth in scientific terms. They do not know about DNA. They do not know about hormones regulating development. They do not know about the intricate biological instructions guiding every stage. What they know is simpler. Children change. Children learn. Children become adults. And if enough care is given along the way, life continues. The stars emerge overhead. The fire settles into glowing coals. The youngest member of the camp sleeps peacefully through it all, growing, changing, developing, quietly carrying one of the greatest mysteries the human body has ever performed. Morning comes with a cold brightness, the kind of brightness that makes every stone seem sharper, and every breath appear briefly in the air before fading. The camp wakes slowly beneath a pale sky. Smoke rises from the main fire, thin and blue. The newborn sleeps. The older children stretch and complain softly about being awake. a tradition that may be older than pottery. You walk toward the edge of camp, where an elder sits on a flat stone with one hand pressed against the side of his jaw. Tooth pain has found him. It is not dramatic from the outside. There is no open wound, no visible blood, no broken limb, yet his face tells you enough. His eyes are narrowed, his movements are slower, he avoids chewing on one side of his mouth. Pain hidden inside the head can make the whole world feel smaller. You sit nearby as another person brings him warm water. He drinks carefully, then touches the sore place again. In this camp, teeth are tools as much as body parts. People use them for eating, holding, gripping, softening fibres, and sometimes working materials when hands are busy. A damaged tooth is not a small inconvenience. It can change how a person eats, speaks, sleeps, and works. Across prehistoric populations, teeth often preserve the story of daily life better than almost any other part of the body. Enamel lasts, wear patterns remain, cavities, abscesses, and missing teeth can survive for archaeologists to study long after soft tissue has disappeared. The people around you cannot know this. They do not know that their teeth will become messages to the distant future. They only know that a tooth can ache with astonishing persistence. You follow the elder as he moves closer to the fire. Warmth seems to comfort him. Someone offers soft food. He accepts it with a grateful nod. The camp understands that hard chewing is unwise today. No one needs to explain dental nerves. No one needs to mention infection beneath the gum. Experience is enough. A tooth that hurts should not be challenged. A detail rarely mentioned is that prehistoric teeth sometimes show heavy wear from grit in food. Tough plant fibres, and the use of teeth as working tools. In some groups, teeth could become flattened, chipped, or deeply worn over a lifetime. You imagine daily eating in this world. Seeds ground between stones may contain tiny particles of grit. Meat can be tough. Roots can be fibrous. Nuts require effort. There are no soft bakery loaves wrapped in paper. No soup conveniently blended by a machine. No dentist waiting politely with a tiny mirror and the unsettling confidence of someone about to ask whether you floss. Here, teeth endure what life gives them, and sometimes they fail. Later in the morning, you walk with a small group toward a rocky slope beyond camp. They are searching for stones suitable for tools. The ground rises gently. Dry grass brushes your legs. The air smells of sun-warmed earth and resin from nearby shrubs. One of the younger adults carries a healed injury in the way he moves. His arm bends slightly differently from the other. It works, but not perfectly. You remember the earlier lessons. Pain, blood, healing. Now you notice bone. Bone is the body's hidden architecture. Prehistoric people could see bones from animals all the time. They cracked them for marrow, shaped them into tools, found them scattered after predators had fed, used them as material, memory, and evidence. But their own bones remained mostly hidden unless injury or death revealed them. Still, they understood that something hard lived beneath the flesh. A broken arm teaches that very quickly. Looking across ancient remains, healed fractures appear often enough to show that many prehistoric people survived serious skeletal injuries. Some bones healed straight, others healed crooked. Either way, the body repaired itself without modern surgery, plaster casts, or X-rays. To those watching in real time, that must have seemed remarkable. A limb is damaged. Swelling appears. Pain limits movement. Weeks pass. Strength slowly returns. Something inside has rejoined. Something hard has mended. How would you explain that without anatomy? The evidence allows more than one interpretation. Some communities may have understood bones mainly through practical comparison with animal skeletons. Others may have attached deeper meanings to bones because they remained after death, outlasting skin, breath, and warmth. Both ideas make sense. Bones are practical. Bones are symbolic. Bones are what remains when the soft body disappears. The group reaches the rocky slope and begins selecting stones. The sound of stone tapping stone carries through the air. Sharp flakes fall to the ground, hands test edges carefully. A child watches from a safe distance, or at least a distance an adult has declared safe after moving him back twice. You kneel beside a pile of animal bones left from an earlier meal. Some are cracked open. The marrow inside would have been valuable food, fat-rich, nutritious, worth the effort. The people here know bones contain something useful. They know bones protect something hidden. They know bones can break. They know bones can heal. Yet the full structure of the skeleton remains mysterious. No one has mapped the body. No one has counted the bones. No one understands joints in scientific terms. But they understand movement. They understand weakness. They understand that a body must hold itself together somehow. By afternoon, the group returns to camp. The elder with the toothache is resting in shade. His pain has not vanished, but soft food and warmth have helped. A young woman nearby sharpens a bone point. Her hands move with steady concentration. The tool is pale and smooth, shaped from what once belonged inside an animal body. This is another quiet strangeness of prehistory. Bodies become tools. Bones become needles. Antlers become handles, teeth become ornaments. The line between body and object is not as firm as modern life sometimes makes it feel. The camp does not waste what the landscape provides. Even the remains of animals carry purpose. As evening comes, firelight returns to the centre of camp. Food cooks slowly. Children settle close to adults. The elder manages a small meal, chewing carefully. No one makes a fuss over him, which may be kindness in its own way. You look around at the people gathered near the flames. Every body here is built around a skeleton no one can see. Tiny bones in the ears help with hearing. Ribs protect the chest. The skull protects the brain, though the brain itself remains poorly understood. Hands grip tools because bones, muscles, and tendons work together in hidden partnership. The body is an entire structure concealed beneath skin. Prehistoric humans lived within it, relied on it, injured it, repaired it, and buried it without fully knowing its design. The fire crackles. The elder touches his jaw again, then lowers his hand. Some pains pass, some remain. Some leave traces that last tens of thousands of years. A tooth worn flat, a bone healed crooked, a jaw marked by infection, a skeleton curled carefully in a grave. These are the quiet records of bodies that once felt hunger, cold, comfort, fear, and love. Night deepens over the valley. The stars appear. Inside every sleeping person, bones hold their shape in silence. Teeth rest in aching jaws or healthy mouths. The hidden frame of the body carries everyone through the dark, and long after the fire burns low, those bones continue their patient work, supporting life without asking to be understood. The morning wind arrives before the sun fully warms the valley. It moves through the camp in soft waves, lifting ash from the fire, stirring loose grass, and slipping beneath hide coverings with the quiet confidence of something that has no respect for personal comfort. You wake to cold skin, not dangerous cold, just enough to make you pull the covering closer around your shoulders. Nearby, others do the same. A child complains softly. An adult answers with the ancient parental tone that means, yes, the world is cold, and no. Complaining has not changed the weather yet. The fire is fed again. Flames rise, hands stretch toward the heat. Breath appears in pale clouds, then vanishes. This morning, the body teaches through skin. Skin is the border between person and world. It feels wind, heat, rain, insect bites, sharp stone, soft fur, smoke, sunlight, and the warmth of another human body nearby. It is the part of the body most exposed to the landscape, and for prehistoric people, the landscape is always close, There are no sealed houses, no central heating, no sunscreen, no soft cotton towels waiting indoors. There is only weather, and the body must answer it. From a biological perspective, human skin is remarkably active. It helps regulate temperature, protects against injury and infection, produces sensations, and responds to sunlight. Prehistoric people did not know any of that in scientific terms, but they lived by its results every day. You step away from the fire as dawn grows brighter. The ground is damp. Cool air brushes your face. Your hands feel stiff until warmth returns to them. Around you, people prepare for the day by adjusting coverings, tying hair back, rubbing arms, and moving closer or farther from the flames. No one calls this thermoregulation. They simply know the body can become too cold or too hot. They know shivering. They know sweating. They know the relief of shade. They know the danger of exposure. The skin speaks quickly, sometimes faster than thought. You follow a group leaving camp for the open valley. The sun rises behind distant hills, turning the grass gold. Mist thins above the stream. Birds call from shrubs and low branches. As the day warms, people loosen their coverings. The body changes with the air. A few hours earlier, everyone searched for heat. Now they search for shade. You notice sweat gathering on foreheads and along necks. To modern eyes, sweat is easy to explain. It cools the body through evaporation. It is part of a complex temperature system shaped by human evolution. To these people, sweat is simply what happens when heat, effort, or fear rises. It appears, it cools, it carries smell, it marks labour, it may even reveal emotion. Few people realise that humans are unusually good at endurance in hot conditions, partly because of sweating and relatively sparse body hair. This ability may have helped early humans travel long distances, forage, and hunt across open landscapes. The people walking beside you know the outcome, not the cause. They know that steady movement is possible. They know when to rest. They know when the sun is too strong. They know that water matters. The body does not explain itself. But it does warn them. By midday, the valley is warm. The group rests beneath the shade of low trees. Someone drinks slowly. Someone rubs dust from the skin. A child scratches at an insect bite with fierce concentration, as if personally offended by the entire insect world. Skin remembers everything. Bites, burns, scratches, scars, sun, cold. The body carries the history of the environment on its surface. You look at the people around you and see lives written in skin. Darker patches from sunlight, fine lines from wind, small scars from stone tools, thorns and fire, calluses on hands and feet, marks from years of movement through a world that is beautiful, generous, and occasionally very rude. The broader prehistoric record reminds us that clothing, shelter, fire, and body covering were essential parts of human adaptation. Bodies alone were not enough. People survived by extending the body with culture. A hide wrapped around shoulders becomes artificial warmth. A shelter becomes artificial skin. Fire becomes a small sun that can be carried from night to night. Body paint may protect, decorate, or signify belonging. A layer of fat from animals may soothe skin or shield it from weather. The exact meanings of early body covering and decoration remain difficult to reconstruct. Some specialists emphasize practical protection from sun, cold, insects, and abrasion. Others see social identity, ritual meaning, beauty, or group belonging in the same practices, and the truth may not choose only one answer. A painted body can be protected and meaningful, a fur covering can warm the body and show skill, a scar can be an accident and a memory. Human life rarely separates usefulness from meaning as neatly as textbooks do. In the afternoon, you return toward camp along a path of dry grass and scattered stones. The sun lowers, warmth softens, a breeze rises again. You feel the temperature shift first on your skin. Before the eye notices evening, the skin does. The camp comes into view. Smoke rises in pale threads. Children sit near an adult who is smoothing animal hide. The hide will become covering, bedding, wrapping, perhaps clothing. Every piece matters. Nearby, an elder examines a patch of irritated skin on a young gatherer's arm. The area is red from contact with some plant or insect. The elder studies it, then applies a paste made from crushed leaves and damp clay. Perhaps it soothes. Perhaps it dries the area. Perhaps it simply reassures. In this world, small discomforts deserve attention because small problems can grow. A blister can affect walking. A burn can limit work. A rash can become infected. The surface of the body is not superficial. It is survival. Evening settles slowly. The air cools again. People move close to the fire. The same skin that sweated under the midday sun now seeks warmth. You sit with them, feeling heat on your face and cold at your back. This contrast becomes familiar. Warmth in front, night behind, firelight on skin, darkness beyond. You think about hair, too. Human bodies are not completely hairless, of course, but compared with many mammals, we are strangely exposed. The reasons behind human hair loss remain debated. Some explanations focus on heat control during endurance activity, others on parasite reduction, sexual selection, water-related theories, or combinations of many factors. Whatever the cause, prehistoric humans inherited the result: skin exposed to sun, skin vulnerable to cold, skin able to sweat freely, bodies that needed clothing, shelter, and fire in many climates. The mystery of skin is really the mystery of humanity's partnership with the environment. The body adapted, culture adapted faster. Together, they made survival possible. Night deepens. A child falls asleep near the warmth. Someone pulls a hide over the child's shoulders. The gesture is small, almost automatic, yet it contains thousands of years of understanding. Cold must be answered. Warmth must be shared. Skin must be protected. The fire crackles softly. Smoke drifts upward. You feel the air cooling against your hands, around you. Every body responds in silence. Blood vessels narrow, muscles shiver slightly. Skin senses the night. Hair rises faintly. The hidden systems work without being understood. Prehistoric people may not know the science of skin, hair, sweat, and temperature, but they know how the wind feels. They know the comfort of fire. They know the danger of too much sun. They know the relief of shade. And as you settle closer to the flames, you understand that the skin is not merely the body's surface. It is where the world touches human life. The day begins before sunrise. The stars are still visible when the first people stir beside the fire. The camp is wrapped in that quiet hour between night and morning, when the world seems reluctant to choose between darkness and light. You sit up slowly. The air feels cold enough to sharpen your senses. Nearby, a hunter stretches both arms overhead. Another rolls stiff shoulders before standing. Someone rubs tired calves after a long day of walking the day before. Every movement reminds you of a question that prehistoric people encountered constantly. Why does the body become tired? It seems simple. You work. You become exhausted. You rest. You recover. Yet beneath that familiar cycle lies an extraordinary mystery. The people around you understand fatigue intimately. They live with it, measure days by it, plan around it. But they have no idea what muscles actually are. The hunters prepare for a longer journey today. A herd has been seen moving through distant grasslands. The trip may require many hours of walking. No one complains, at least not openly. Complaining about long journeys is probably one of those activities humans prefer to save for the middle of the journey, rather than the beginning. The fire crackles softly. People eat a small meal, water is shared, tools are checked. Then the group begins moving into the dawn. You follow behind. The eastern sky brightens gradually. The grass glows silver with dew. Birds call from hidden places among the shrubs. The pace is steady, not rushed, not slow, the kind of pace that can be maintained for hours. One pattern appears again and again across the prehistoric record. Human bodies evolved to support remarkable endurance. Long-distance walking, carrying, tracking, gathering, and persistence hunting all relied upon sustained physical effort rather than brief bursts of speed. The people around you know this through experience. They know how far they can travel before needing rest. They know which muscles ache after climbing. They know how exhaustion feels at the end of a difficult day. What they do not know is why muscles respond the way they do. They cannot see muscle fibers. They cannot observe energy stored inside cells. They cannot explain why strength grows with practice, yet they witness the results constantly. As the sun rises, the landscape warms. The hunters move through open grassland and scattered woodland. You hear insects beginning their morning chorus. The scent of crushed plants drifts upward with every step. After several hours, one younger hunter begins breathing harder. Sweat darkens his skin. His legs feel heavy. You can see it in the way he walks. The body is asking questions. Can you continue? How much energy remains? Should you rest? Modern physiology provides detailed answers. Prehistoric humans relied on sensation. The sensation itself becomes information. Heavy legs mean caution. Steady breathing means continue. Dizziness means stop. The body speaks clearly if you listen. Hidden among archaeological discoveries is an interesting clue. Studies of prehistoric skeletons often reveal signs of strong muscle attachment sites, suggesting lives filled with physical activity far beyond what many modern people experience. Of course, the skeleton does not preserve muscles themselves. Those disappear, but their influence remains. Bone remembers effort. Bone remembers repetition. Bone remembers years of movement. You stop briefly near a stream. Everyone drinks. Some sit on nearby stones. No one wastes energy unnecessarily. That may be one of the oldest survival skills of all. Knowing when not to move. The younger hunter massages his thigh. The muscles feel sore. Perhaps from yesterday. Perhaps from today's journey. Perhaps from both. Pain and fatigue often travel together, yet they are not identical. One warns of injury. The other warns of limits. The distinction matters. The body is constantly negotiating with itself. You continue walking. The herd leaves signs ahead. Tracks, broken stems, fresh droppings. The hunters read the landscape like a book, and while they track animals, their bodies continue working quietly beneath the surface. Muscles contract, blood circulates, energy is consumed, heat is generated, none of it is visible. The deeper mystery lies in how ancient people explained physical strength itself. Why can one person carry more weight than another? Why do some individuals recover quickly while others struggle? Why does practice improve performance? Why does age eventually reduce it? Much of this remains impossible to reconstruct with certainty, because prehistoric explanations were rarely written down. What survives are clues rather than direct answers. Perhaps strength was associated with spirits, perhaps with ancestry, perhaps with food, experience, determination, or luck. Most likely, several ideas coexisted. Human beings rarely settle for a single explanation. By midday, the hunters finally rest beneath a cluster of trees. The shade feels wonderful. You sink down onto the grass. The earth radiates warmth gathered from the morning sun. A breeze moves through the leaves overhead. For a while, no one speaks. Everyone simply rests, and resting itself becomes interesting. The body wants it, demands it, rewards it. After enough time passes, fatigue begins to loosen its grip, breathing slows, muscles relax, energy returns, from the perspective of the prehistoric mind. This process must have seemed almost magical. Work drains strength. Rest restores it. Where does the strength go? Where does it come back from? No one knows. They simply trust the cycle. A remarkable example comes from studies of hunter-gatherer societies in more recent periods. Researchers often observe individuals capable of maintaining long distances on foot while carrying supplies, tracking animals, and navigating difficult terrain with efficiency that would surprise many modern observers. Human endurance is easy to underestimate, especially when viewed from a chair. You smile at the thought. The hunters eventually rise again. The herd remains ahead. The journey continues. Hours later, the group finally returns toward camp. Everyone moves more slowly now. The day's effort is visible. Shoulders droop slightly, steps shorten. Conversation fades. Bodies are tired. The valley welcomes them home with familiar sights. Smoke rising from campfires. Children running to greet returning adults. The smell of cooking food drifting through cool evening air. The hunters settle near the fire. Food is shared. Water is passed around. Several people stretch aching legs. Others simply sit and stare into the flames. You know that feeling. The moment when doing absolutely nothing feels like an impressive achievement. Night settles over the valley. Stars emerge one by one. The newborn sleeps. The elder with a sore tooth dozes near the warmth. Children grow quiet. The camp relaxes. Inside every person around you. Muscles are already beginning the work of recovery. Tiny repairs are taking place. Energy stores are being replenished. The body prepares for tomorrow. No one understands protein synthesis. No one understands cellular metabolism. No one understands microscopic repair. They only know that rest helps, food helps, sleep helps, and tomorrow, strength will return. Perhaps not completely, perhaps not forever, but enough. Enough to walk, enough to gather, enough to hunt. Enough to carry children, build shelters, tell stories, and survive another day. The fire glows softly. You stretch your own tired legs toward the warmth. The body remains mysterious. Yet one lesson has become clear. Prehistoric humans did not need to understand muscles in order to respect them. They listened to fatigue. They honored recovery. They trusted experience. And beneath the stars, surrounded by quiet breathing and fading firelight, their bodies continue performing miracles they cannot see. The morning after the long hunt feels slower. Bodies rise carefully from sleep. Shoulders roll, knees bend, feet press into cold earth. The camp wakes beneath a pale sky, while smoke lifts from the fire in thin grey threads. Today. The focus turns back to food. Not simply the comfort of eating, not simply the pleasure of a full belly, but the risk hidden inside the things people eat. You walk with a small group toward the edge of the valley, where shrubs, low trees, and patches of edible plants grow among stones. The air smells of damp grass and wood smoke. Birds call from the brush. A child follows close behind an older woman, watching every movement of her hands. This is not casual gathering. This is memory work. Every leaf, seed, root, berry, mushroom. And Shellfish carries a question. Will this strengthen the body? Will this upset the belly? Will this make someone sick? Will this quietly endanger life in prehistory? Food knowledge was not a hobby. It was survival. There were no labels, no expiration dates, no warning symbols, and no helpful stranger online saying, "Actually, you should not eat that mushroom unless you enjoy a very dramatic afternoon." The body had to learn through experience, and experience could be costly by this point in human history. Hunter-gatherers in many environments had developed detailed knowledge of edible plants and animal foods. Their diets varied by region and season, often combining gathered plants, nuts, roots, fish, shellfish, insects, birds, eggs, and hunted animals. But knowing what to eat did not mean the mystery was solved. The body remained unpredictable. One food nourished, another caused cramps, another brought dizziness, another tasted bitter and was avoided, another required cooking before it became safe. The people around you could observe outcomes, but the hidden causes stayed out of reach. You stop beside a cluster of berries. They shine darkly in the morning light. The child reaches toward them, but the older woman gently catches the child's wrist, not those. Her voice is calm but firm. The child withdraws the hand. Lesson learned, at least for the next several minutes, which is about the attention span the universe has generously assigned to young children. The woman points to another plant nearby. These berries are gathered carefully. Some go into a pouch. The difference between the two plants may seem obvious to her. To you, it is much less obvious, and that is the point. Prehistoric food knowledge depended on extreme attention. Leaf shape, smell, season, location, colour, texture, animal behaviour, memory of what happened last time. The body itself became part of the testing process. A sour stomach could become a warning for the future. Vomiting could become a lesson. Weakness after eating could mark a plant as dangerous. The trouble, of course, is that not all dangerous foods announce themselves politely. Some poisons act slowly, some affect only certain people. Some depend on preparation, some are safe in one season and risky in another. The evidence leaves room for several interpretations about how early people built this knowledge. Some specialists emphasize trial and error for countless generations. Others point to careful observation of animals, taste, smell, and inherited cultural rules. Most likely, all of these work together. You walk farther into the brush. The sun rises higher, warming the damp ground. The group finds roots near a patch of softer soil. Digging begins. The earth releases a rich smell as sticks break the surface. Roots are pulled free, shaken clean, and sorted. Some are kept, some are tossed aside. You notice that no one explains the choice in abstract terms. There is no lecture about toxins or starches. There is simply knowing. This one, not that one. Here. Knowledge is carried in fingers, gestures, and memory. A small but fascinating clue from archaeology is that some prehistoric people processed foods in ways that reduced danger or improved nutrition, such as grinding seeds, cooking tough plants, soaking materials, or heating certain foods before eating them. That means food knowledge was not only about finding, it was also about transforming. Fire changes food, water changes food, grinding changes food, time changes food. The body may accept something cooked that it rejects raw. You return to camp by midday with roots, seeds, and leaves. The fire is already strong. Food preparation begins. Some roots are placed near hot stones. Seeds are crushed. Meat from the previous hunt is inspected carefully. The smell of smoke and roasting food spreads across the camp. You watch one hunter sniff a piece of meat, then set it aside. Perhaps it is too old. Perhaps it smells wrong. Perhaps memory says caution. There are few things more humbling than realizing the nose may have been one of the earliest food safety tools. Modern people still do this. We open the container, we smell it, we make a face. Then, if we are wise. We do not negotiate with the leftovers. Prehistoric people had even better reasons to be careful, without understanding bacteria. They still knew that spoiled food could bring illness. They knew stomach pain could follow certain meals. They knew that some water sources were unkind. They knew that a pleasant smell did not guarantee safety. But a bad smell was worth respecting. As afternoon passes, a child complains of belly discomfort. Not severe, just enough to worry the adults. The child had been nibbling on something earlier, naturally with the confidence of someone who has not yet developed a complete relationship with consequences. An older woman asks questions, points to plants, studies the child's face, offers water, keeps the child close. The camp watches gently. The discomfort may pass, it may become worse. No one knows yet. You think about digestion again, about the invisible interior where food becomes strength or trouble. The stomach and intestines must have seemed like a hidden chamber of judgment. Food goes in, the body decides. Sometimes the answer is warmth and energy. Sometimes the answer is regret. The broader picture indicates that prehistoric people survived not because they avoided all risk, but because they learned to manage risk across generations. Food knowledge was cumulative, it was social. It was guarded carefully because forgetting could be dangerous. A bitter taste might warn, a burning mouth might warn, a pattern of sickness might warn. But the body did not always speak clearly. This is where mystery entered. Why could one person eat something and another suffer? Why did the same food help one day and harm another? Why did hunger push people toward risks they would usually avoid? The answer is far from simple. Even now, allergy, dose, contamination, preparation, individual health, age, pregnancy, parasites, and microbes can all change how food affects the body. The people around the fire could not name those factors, but they could notice differences. They could say, this child should not eat that, this elder needs softer food, this plant must be cooked longer, this water should be avoided after storms. Practical wisdom grows in exactly that way. Evening arrives with the child feeling better, the camp relaxes, the meal is shared, cooked roots soften near the fire, seeds are eaten slowly, meat is passed in small portions, the air smells warm and smoky, with a faint sweetness from roasted plants. You eat quietly and feel strength return to your body. Again, the ancient cycle continues: hunger, search, risk, preparation, eating, waiting, relief, around you. People talk softly. The child who felt unwell now sits near the mother, looking sleepy and mildly offended by the extra attention. The stars appear overhead. The firelight flickers across baskets, stones, hands, and faces. You realize that prehistoric humans did not need chemical analysis to understand that food was powerful. Food could heal weakness, food could build children, food could poison, food could comfort. Food could bring people together beside the fire, inside every body around you. The evening meal now travels into darkness. Some parts become energy, some become warmth, some become tomorrow's strength. The people here cannot see any of it, so they trust taste, smell, memory, caution, and one another. And in a world where every meal carries both promise and uncertainty, that trust may be one of the oldest ingredients of survival. The next morning is softer. A pale mist rests over the valley, and the first sunlight spreads through it slowly, turning the whole camp silver and gold. The fire has been kept alive through the night. Smoke rises in a thin column, then bends when the breeze finds it. You sit near the hearth, watching the oldest member of the group warm his hands. He's not silent because he has nothing to say. He is silent because he has learned that not every morning needs words. His hair is pale in places, his skin is lined by weather, smoke, sun, and years of expression. His fingers are stiff at first, but gradually loosen near the heat. When he rises, he does so carefully. Not with weakness exactly, but with respect for a body that now requires negotiation. Old age has entered the circle, not as an enemy, not as failure, simply as another mystery. In a prehistoric camp, age is visible. It lives in slower steps, missing teeth, healed injuries, remembered stories, and hands that know how to do things without thinking. It lives in the way younger people make room near the fire. It lives in the quiet attention given to someone whose body has changed but whose memory remains valuable. The surviving evidence suggests that some prehistoric people lived into later adulthood, though many lives were shortened by injury, infection, childbirth, malnutrition, and environmental danger. Reaching old age was not impossible, but it was never guaranteed. You watch the elder accept a bowl of softened food. Someone has prepared it so he can chew more easily. No one announces this kindness. No one turns it into a ceremony. The bowl is simply placed in his hands. Care can be very quiet. The elder eats slowly while the camp waits around him. Children move near the shelters. A young hunter sharpens a point. The mother of the newborn sits close to the fire, half awake, half asleep, as many new mothers have been since the beginning of humanity. The old man looks at them all with calm attention. He's seen many mornings. That itself is knowledge. In this world, memory is a kind of library. There are no written records stored in baskets, no tablets, no books, no archives. The elders are the archives. They remember where water remained during dry seasons. They remember which plants ripened early after warm winters. They remember old paths, old dangers, old stories, old mistakes. A detail often missed is that in many small-scale societies, older adults can contribute greatly through ecological knowledge, child care, tool-making skill, conflict memory, and storytelling, even when they no longer perform the most physically demanding tasks. Strength changes. Usefulness does not disappear. That is an important distinction. You follow the elder as he walks slowly toward the stream with a child at his side. The path is damp from night mist. The child keeps stopping to look at stones, insects, and anything else the world has carelessly placed within reach. The elder waits. Patience may be easier when one has already crossed so many years. Or perhaps patience is simply fatigue wearing a more dignified cloak. At the stream, the elder points to a plant growing near the bank. He speaks softly. The child listens, then touches the leaves carefully. Another lesson passes from one body to another. Age may weaken the legs, but it can strengthen the story. You notice the elder's hands, knuckles slightly swollen, fingers bent in subtle ways, scars faded into pale lines. Those hands have made tools, carried food, held children, gathered wood, lifted water, touched the sick, and warmed themselves beside countless fires. The body stores history, not as words, as marks, as stiffness, as habits, as the way one hand reaches for support before the mind has fully decided to stand. Modern experts still wrestle with how prehistoric groups treated aging members in different regions and periods. Some evidence points toward care and respect, while other situations must have been shaped by scarcity, mobility, and difficult choices. The truth is likely varied. No single image can represent all of prehistory. Some elders were treasured, some struggled, some were central to group memory, some depended heavily on others. Human life has always been complicated, even when lived beneath open skies, by midday. The camp gathers beneath warming sunlight. The elder sits with a tool in his lap, shaping a small object with slow, precise movements. His hands are not fast, but they are skilled. A younger adult watches nearby. This is another form of strength, not the strength of running, not the strength of lifting, the strength of knowing exactly where to press, where to scrape, when to stop. The younger adult could probably work faster. The elder wastes less motion. You think about what prehistoric people did not understand about aging. They saw hair pale. They saw skin crease. They saw eyesight weaken. They saw wounds heal more slowly. They saw strength decline. They saw memory sometimes sharpen with experience and sometimes become fragile with time. But they did not know about cellular aging. They did not know about bone density. They did not know why joints stiffened or why hearing faded. They only knew that bodies changed if they survived long enough. And that is the strange bargain of aging. To grow old, one must first keep living. Afternoon drifts quietly. The old man rests in shade while children play nearby, One child leans against him, not asking permission. Because children often treat older relatives as landscape features with emotional benefits. The elder allows it. His eyes close for a while. The camp hums around him. Grinding, talking, footsteps, birdsong. The faint sound of the stream beyond the shelters. You realise that old age changes the pace of time. Younger bodies rush toward the next task. Older bodies remember the tasks that came before. They carry distance inside them. Perhaps that is why elders often become connected with story. They are living bridges between what is happening now and what happened before anyone else can remember. As evening arrives, the elder speaks beside the fire. His voice is low. People listen. The story may concern a hunt, a flood, a cold season, a journey, an ancestor, or a lesson wrapped in memory. You cannot understand the words, yet you understand the shape of the moment. The group is not only hearing entertainment, they are receiving survival, a remembered warning, a map of the past. A way to belong, the body may weaken, but the voice still carries. The firelight flickers across the elder's face. Lines deepen in the glow. The old eyes reflect flame. You think of how strange the aging body must have seemed without explanation. Why should time leave marks? Why should the same person become slower? Why should memory hold some things tightly and release others? Why should youth pass at all? The body offers no answer, only evidence. Hair changes. Skin changes, strength changes, breath changes, knee changes. Yet around this fire, age is not only loss, it is accumulation. The elder has outlived winters, outlived fevers, outlived injuries, outlived hunger, outlived fear. Every wrinkle is proof of continuation. Night settles fully. The newborn sleeps against the mother's chest. Children grow quiet. Hunters stare into the flames. The elder's voice fades into silence. Someone places another branch on the fire. Warmth spreads again. You sit there with them, feeling the slow comfort of shared darkness. Prehistoric people may not understand aging in biological terms, but they understand that older bodies deserve attention. They understand that memory has value. They understand that survival is not only carried in strong arms, but also in remembered seasons, practiced hands, and stories told softly at night. The elder closes his eyes, the fire glows, and in the quiet, old age rests beside the hearth, fragile and powerful at the same time. The fire burns low tonight, not because anyone has forgotten it, simply because the camp is quiet. The day's work is finished. The air is cooled. Children sleep beside parents. The newborn breathes softly against warm skin. Even the dogs resting near the edge of camp seem unusually peaceful. You sit beneath a sky crowded with stars. The darkness beyond the firelight feels vast, and somewhere within that darkness waits one of the oldest mysteries humans have ever faced. Not the mystery of blood, not the mystery of hunger, not even the mystery of death, the mystery of being yourself. You place a hand against your chest. You feel the warmth of your body. You hear distant insects. You smell wood smoke drifting upward. You know you are here. You know you are thinking. You know you are experiencing the world. But what exactly is the thing inside you that experiences it? That question is difficult enough today. For prehistoric humans, it must have felt almost impossible. A child nearby turns over in sleep and murmurs something unintelligible. The sound fades. The fire crackles softly. You watch sparks drift upward toward the stars. Every person around this camp possesses memories, preferences, fears, relationships, dreams. Each person feels like an individual universe. Yet none of them can explain where thoughts come from. They cannot point to the brain as the source of consciousness. They do not know about neurons. They do not know about electrical signals. They do not know about neural networks built from billions of cells. The body had one more secret to reveal, and it may have been the greatest secret of all. the mind itself. If you could examine prehistoric burials, artwork, symbolic objects, and ritual sites across thousands of years, one pattern appears repeatedly. Human beings were not merely surviving, they were thinking deeply about identity, memory, relationships, and meaning. Something inside them demanded answers. The evidence for that curiosity survives in cave paintings, personal ornaments, burial practices, carved figures, and shared stories. The people around you may not know what consciousness is, yet they know it exists. How could they not? They experience it every moment. You rise and walk slowly beyond the edge of camp. The grass brushes against your legs. Moonlight paints silver patterns across the valley floor, far away. An owl calls for a moment. You imagine yourself through prehistoric eyes. You have a body. You have thoughts. The two seem connected, but are they the same thing? The question becomes especially strange during sleep. A sleeping person lies motionless, yet dreams continue. A person can travel across mountains in a dream, speak with the dead, visit distant places, then wake without ever leaving the shelter. What should one conclude from that? Many ancient cultures eventually developed ideas involving souls, spirits, life forces, or invisible aspects of personhood. Whether similar concepts existed in deep prehistory remains uncertain, but the experiences that inspired such ideas certainly existed. Dreams existed, memory existed, imagination existed, love existed, grief existed. The raw material was already there. A fascinating clue hidden within prehistoric art is that many symbolic images appear far removed from immediate survival needs. Some paintings, carvings, and decorations seem to reflect imagination, storytelling, identity, or belief rather than simple practical concerns. This matters. A mind focused only on food and shelter would leave a different record. The people around you clearly cared about something more. You return toward the fire. An elder still sits awake. The old man stares into the flames with the expression of someone following a thought that began many years ago. You sit beside him. Neither of you speaks. Words are unnecessary. The fire provides enough company. You find yourself wondering how prehistoric people explained emotions. Joy, fear, anger, affection, jealousy, sorrow. Today, science can describe hormones, neurotransmitters, brain regions, and complex psychological systems. Yet even now, emotions often feel mysterious. You know sadness when it arrives. You know fear when your heart races. You know affection when you feel it. Understanding the biological mechanisms does not remove the experience. Seen through prehistoric eyes, emotions might seem like forces moving through the body, not entirely physical, not entirely separate, something in between. The archaeological record grows quieter when we ask exactly how early humans understood thoughts and emotions. Physical objects survive, feelings rarely do. This is one of those questions that refuses a simple answer. The clues remain. Certainty does not. A child begins crying softly in sleep, immediately. The mother wakes. The response is automatic. Comfort arrives before conscious analysis. The child settles again. You watch the exchange. There is something remarkable about it. The mother's body responds. The mother's mind responds. The boundary between the two feels difficult to define. Perhaps prehistoric people noticed that too. Perhaps they experienced emotion as something flowing through the entire body, rather than emerging from a single organ. The truth may be more complicated than either ancient or modern explanations suggest. As the night deepens, the elder finally speaks. His voice is quiet, slow, measured. Perhaps he's telling a story. Perhaps remembering someone who is gone. Perhaps describing a journey from long ago. The exact words do not matter. What matters is memory. Memory itself is astonishing. A person sees something once. Years pass. The event remains. Where does it stay? How does it survive? The people around you possess no answer. Neither do most modern people in any intuitive sense. Memory involves the brain, yet memories still feel almost magical. A forgotten detail from human evolution is how much social life depends upon remembering individuals. Faces, relationships, alliances, family histories, obligations, and stories all require extraordinary memory skills. Without memory, communities collapse. Without memory, identity becomes difficult. Without memory, the self begins to unravel. You think again about the elder. The old man carries decades inside his mind. Winters, storms, births, deaths, journeys, laughter, fear. The camp sees only one body sitting beside a fire. Hidden within that body is an entire world, and the same is true for every person nearby. The newborn sleeping beside the mother already possesses a growing mind. The child chasing insects tomorrow will build memories. The hunters will remember trails. The gatherers will remember plants. Everyone carries invisible landscapes inside. No one can see them, no one can touch them, yet they shape everything. The fire burns lower. The stars seem brighter now. The valley settles into silence. You stare into the darkness and consider perhaps the strangest fact of all. Every prehistoric human knew what it felt like to be alive. None of them fully understood why. They knew thoughts existed. They knew dreams existed. They knew love, fear, grief, curiosity, and hope existed. They knew the self was real, but the machinery behind those experiences remained hidden. In many ways, it still is. Modern science has revealed astonishing details about the brain. Yet consciousness remains one of humanity's greatest unanswered questions. The people around this fire stand at the beginning of that mystery. And as you sit among them, listening to quiet breathing and fading embers, you realize something comforting. Not every mystery must be solved immediately. Some mysteries simply accompany us. Like stars above a campfire, like dreams in the night, like the feeling of being yourself. The fire glows softly. The elder closes his eyes. The camp sleeps. And somewhere inside every sleeping mind around you, another invisible world continues to unfold. Dawn does not arrive quickly. It gathers slowly at the edge of the valley, turning the darkness from black to blue, then from blue to grey. The fire has burned down to a quiet bed of coals. Smoke drifts low over the sleeping camp. For a while, nothing moves except breath, ash, and the faint grass beyond the shelters. Then someone wakes with a sound that changes the morning. Not loud, not wild, just a soft, broken sound. You turn toward one of the shelters. The elder who spoke beside the fire last night lies still beneath a covering of hide. Too still. People gather slowly at first, then more closely. No one runs, no one shouts. The camp seems to understand, almost before anyone says it, that something final has happened. The old man's breathing has stopped. The body remains. The person does not. And this, perhaps more than any other bodily mystery, troubled prehistoric humans deeply. Death reveals the body in its most confusing form. The face is familiar, the hands are familiar, the scars, hair, bones, and skin remain. Yet the warmth fades, the chest no longer rises. The eyes do not answer, the voice does not return. Something essential has gone. But what, where, how? You sit at the edge of the gathering as morning light enters the camp. The air is cold, the people are quiet. A child reaches for a parent's hand. The newborn sleeps, unaware that life and death now share the same circle of firelight. Across many prehistoric sites, carefully arranged burials show that ancient humans often treated the dead with intention. Bodies were sometimes placed in particular positions, accompanied by tools, ornaments, pigments, or other objects. This does not tell us exactly what they believed, but it does tell us that the dead mattered. The body was not simply ignored. The old man is lifted gently. His body is lighter now, or perhaps it only seems that way because he no longer helps in the movement. The people around him handle him with care. Someone smooths his hair, someone closes the covering around him. Someone sits nearby without speaking. You remember his voice from the night before, low, slow, carrying memory. Now the voice is gone, and yet the memory of it remains inside others. Death removes one body but leaves many echoes. For prehistoric people, this must have been one of the most powerful clues that a person was more than flesh alone. You can no longer touch the elder's thoughts, but you can remember them. You can no longer hear his story, but you can repeat parts of it. The body stops. The social person continues in memory. That distinction may have shaped some of humanity's earliest ideas about spirits, ancestors, and worlds beyond the visible one. The trail of evidence becomes faint here. Archaeologists can study bones, grave goods, red pigments, and burial positions, but they cannot hear the words spoken at the graveside or know the private thoughts of those who mourned. Several explanations remain possible. A burial might show grief. It might show belief in an afterlife. It might protect the living from the dead. It might mark belonging. It might combine all of these at once. Human rituals rarely have only one meaning. By mid-morning, the camp begins preparing a place beyond the main shelter area. The ground is soft near a cluster of stones and low plants. People work slowly with digging sticks and hands. The sound of earth being moved is quiet but steady. No one treats the task casually. The old man's body rests nearby, wrapped and watched. A woman brings a small object he used often, perhaps a worked bone tool or a stone he carried. Another person adds a bit of red pigment. The colour catches the light like dried blood, like sunset, like earth itself. One remarkable clue from deep prehistory is the repeated use of red ochre in some burial contexts. Its meaning remains uncertain, but the colour's connection to blood, life, earth, transformation, or identity has fascinated researchers for a long time. You look at the pigment on the elder's covering. It is simple, a small mark, yet it feels important. Red against hide, colour against stillness, memory against disappearance. The body has become something different now. Yesterday it was an active presence, warming hands by the fire, telling stories, watching children. Today it is cared for as a vessel of memory. Prehistoric humans may not have known what caused death inside the body. They didn't understand heart failure, stroke, infection, organ damage, or the gradual breakdown of bodily systems, but they understood the signs. No breath, no warmth, no movement, no response. They knew the difference between sleep and death, and that difference was vast. By afternoon, the burial place is ready. The camp gathers. Even the children are quieter, as if the mood itself has settled over them like a covering. The elder is carried carefully. You follow at a distance. The valley feels unusually still. Grass bends in a light wind. Birds call from far away. The sun rests behind thin cloud, softening the light. The body is lowered into the earth. No one hurries. A few objects are placed nearby, perhaps tools, perhaps food, perhaps tokens of affection, perhaps things whose meaning is now lost to time. The silence stretches. Then earth begins to cover the body. A handful at a time, soft sounds, soil against hide, breath held, then released. You feel the weight of the moment, not frightening, not graphic, just deeply human. The same body that once carried memory, hunger, pain, laughter, and fatigue is now returning to the ground. The people around you do not fully understand decomposition. They do not know about microbes breaking down tissue. They do not know about chemical processes transforming the body. They see only that flesh changes after death, and that bones may remain. Bones, as you learned earlier, are patient. They outlast warmth, they outlast breath, they outlast names. As evening approaches, the camp returns slowly to the fire. No one really returns unchanged. The elder's place near the hearth is empty. Someone sits beside it, not in it, at least not yet. The newborn stirs and cries. The sound is small but piercing in the quiet. A mother comforts the child. Life answers death, not by explaining it, but by continuing. You sit near the fire as darkness falls. The flames rise again. People speak softly. Perhaps they recall the elder's stories. Perhaps they repeat his warnings. Perhaps they laugh gently over some old habit of his. Because grief and laughter have always lived closer together than we expect. You think about what prehistoric people really did not understand about death. They did not know the biological mechanisms, but they understood the absence. They understood the change in temperature, breath, and presence. They understood that a person could remain powerful in memory after the body had stopped moving. They understood that the dead required attention, and maybe that was the beginning of something immense. Ritual, ancestor memory, spiritual imagination. The idea that the visible body was not the whole person. The fire crackles softly. The elder's stories remain in the mind around you. The burial rests beneath cooling earth. The stars appear overhead in the quiet camp. Everyone feels the boundary between life and death, even if no one can explain it, and beneath the night sky, the still body has become part of the land, while the remembered person remains beside the fire. The valley feels quieter after the burial, not empty, not sorrowful in every moment, just slightly changed. The elder's absence lingers in small places, an unused sitting spot near the fire, a familiar voice no longer joining evening conversations, a story that now ends in memory instead of being told aloud. Yet life continues. It always does. The newborn still wakes hungry. Children still race through the camp. Hunters still leave at dawn. Gatherers still return with baskets full of roots and seeds. And as you spend another day among these people, your attention is drawn towards something surprisingly familiar. Marks, not wounds, not injuries, chosen marks. The human body is not only a biological thing, it is also a social thing, a visible thing, a thing that carries messages. Long before written language, bodies communicated information. You notice this while sitting beside the fire shortly after sunrise. A young woman kneels near a flat stone, mixing red and dark pigments into a small bowl nearby. Another person applies colour to an arm using careful fingers. The process is slow, deliberate, almost meditative. The paint catches the morning light. For a moment, you realise something important. People do not simply live inside bodies, they decorate them. Across many prehistoric sites, archaeologists have discovered pigments, beads, ornaments, pendants, shells, carved objects, and other forms of personal decoration. The evidence stretches back tens of thousands of years and suggests that appearance carried social meaning long before recorded history. That fact alone tells you something remarkable. Food keeps the body alive. Decoration does not. Yet people devoted time and effort to it anyway. Why? Because human beings care about identity. You walk through the camp as the day begins. Several individuals wear ornaments made from bone, shell, teeth, or carved stone. Some are simple. Others appear more elaborate. None of them are necessary for survival in the narrowest sense. But perhaps they help people survive socially. A necklace might indicate belonging. A decoration might signal experience. A pattern of paint might identify a family, a role, or a special occasion. The exact meanings are lost. The objects remain. Seen from another angle, body decoration may represent one of humanity's earliest forms of communication. Before writing, before monuments, before books, the body itself became a canvas. A child runs past you, laughing. Red pigment marks one cheek. The paint is uneven. The child clearly applied it personally. The results are enthusiastic rather than precise. Some artistic traditions also have very deep roots. You smile and continue walking. The camp feels alive beneath the warm morning sun. Smoke drifts upward. Insects move among flowers. The smell of earth and ash lingers in the air. Near one shelter, a hunter examines an old scar running across his forearm. The mark is pale now, years old, barely noticeable unless the light catches it correctly. Yet scars are another form of body history. Unlike paint, they cannot be washed away. Unlike ornaments, they cannot be removed. The body remembers. One unusual pattern appears when scientists examine ancient skeletons and preserved remains. Human bodies often carry evidence of injuries, illnesses, repetitive labour, and survival experiences that lasted for decades after the original event. Scars tell stories. Bones tell stories. Teeth tell stories. Bodies become records. The hunter traces the scar briefly before returning to work. Perhaps he remembers the injury. Perhaps he barely thinks about it anymore. Either way, the mark remains. You begin wondering how prehistoric people viewed scars. Did they represent survival experience, luck, misfortune, wisdom? The clues survive, but certainty does not. Different groups likely attach different meanings to bodily marks. A scar earned during a hunt may have been admired. A scar from illness may have carried a different story. Some marks may have been hidden, others displayed proudly. Human beings have always interpreted bodies through culture as well as biology. By midday, the camp gathers near a shaded area where several people work with shells and animal teeth. Small holes are being carefully drilled. Fibers are threaded through them. The process requires patience. You sit nearby and watch. The sounds are delicate. Stone scraping shell. Fibre sliding through openings. Soft conversation. The work is beautiful in its simplicity. A remarkable clue survived purely by accident in some prehistoric burial sites. Objects that once hung around the neck, wrists, or waist occasionally remained in place long enough to show how people adorned themselves thousands of years ago. These discoveries reveal something deeply human. People wanted to be seen, not merely looked at. Seen, recognized, remembered. The body becomes part of that process. You think about the elder who died yesterday. His body's gone from the camp. Yet people still remember his face, his posture, his voice, his gestures. Identity survives partly because bodies leave impressions on memory. The afternoon grows warmer. Children play near the stream. Adults repair tools. Life continues. Yet another puzzle waits nearby. Why do humans care so much about appearance at all? A wolf does not carve beads. A deer does not paint its body. A bird may display feathers, but humans transform appearance through intention. That distinction matters. Decoration requires imagination. It requires symbolic thinking. It requires seeing the body as something more than flesh. Not everyone studying prehistoric symbolism agrees on exactly what ornaments meant. Some may have expressed group identity, others may have marked status, age, skill, family ties, spiritual beliefs, attractiveness, or personal taste. No single explanation satisfies every discovery. Human motivations are rarely that simple. Even today, clothing, jewelry, hairstyles, tattoos, and cosmetics carry many meanings at once. Prehistoric people were likely no different. As evening approaches, the sunlight softens, long shadows stretch across the valley, the fire is rebuilt. People gather once more. A young woman finishes applying fresh pigment to her arms. The colour glows warmly in the firelight. Nearby, a child proudly displays a newly made ornament to anyone willing to look, which, fortunately, is everyone. The camp responds with encouraging attention. The child beams. You realise that decoration is not only about appearance, it is about belonging. A painted body belongs somewhere. An ornament connects a person to others. A scar connects the present self to a remembered past. The body becomes social history. The flames dance higher. Smoke drifts toward the stars around you. Every person carries visible signs of life, calluses from work, scars from accidents, paint from rituals or identity, ornaments from memory, family, or friendship. The body is no longer just a biological machine. It is a story, written slowly over years, added to season after season, read by everyone who knows you. Prehistoric humans did not understand genetics. They did not understand cellular repair. They did not understand the chemistry of skin pigmentation or tissue formation. Yet they understood something equally important. Bodies communicate. Bodies remember. Bodies belong. The fire crackles softly. Children drift towards sleep. Adults speak quietly in the darkness. And beneath the stars, every person around you carries a living record of where they have been, who they are, and the people whose lives have touched their own. Morning returns quietly after the night of painted arms and firelit stories. The camp wakes beneath a pale sky. Smoke rises from the hearth. Dew clings to the grass. The newborn makes a small, restless sound, then settles again. Children stir beneath coverings, slow to rise, as if negotiating with the entire concept of morning. You sit near the fire and watch the group begin another day. By now, the camp feels familiar. The wrapped ankle, the healed cut, the coughing sickness, the birth, the elder's burial, the painted skin. All of it has shown you something important. Prehistoric people did not understand the body through science. They understood it through living. They learned by watching pain fade, wounds close, children grow, bodies weaken, hunger return, and sleep restore strength. Their knowledge was not written in books. It was carried in memory, gesture, habit, story, and caution. You follow a woman as she checks the child who had stomach trouble a few days earlier. The child is well now, running around with renewed confidence and the selective memory of someone who has already forgotten the lesson. The woman watches anyway. Observation is medicine here. Observation is record-keeping. Observation is survival. Across ancient camps and burial sites, the picture that emerges is not one of ignorance, but of practical intelligence. Prehistoric humans lacked microscopes and anatomy charts, yet they built careful traditions from repeated experience. They knew warmth helped, they knew rest mattered, they knew certain plants had effects, they knew some foods were dangerous, they knew wounds must be watched. They knew the sick needed care. This was not modern biology, but it was knowledge. You walk toward the stream with several gatherers. The air smells of wet stone and crushed leaves. Birds call from the reeds. Sunlight flickers across moving water. One gatherer pauses before filling a container. She studies the current, the bank, the traces of animals nearby. Perhaps this place is safe. Perhaps another place is safer. No one says the word contamination. No one imagines microbes in the water. Still, choices are made. A safe spring remembered from last season. A pool avoided after heavy rain. A stream preferred because it moves. Such habits could save lives without anyone knowing the hidden reason. That is one of the strangest truths about human survival. People can be right before they know why. They can develop useful practices from patterns alone. You see the same thing with food, with pain, with illness, with birth. Experience becomes tradition. Tradition becomes instruction. Instruction becomes culture. And culture helps the body survive its own mysteries. A small piece of evidence opens an unexpected window into this world. Some prehistoric skeletons show healed injuries severe enough that the person likely needed help from others while recovering. Those bones suggest not only survival, but social support. A healed bone is more than biology. It may be a memory of food brought by someone else, a fire kept burning, a slow journey adjusted, a hand offered for balance. The body heals from within. But people often make healing possible from outside. By midday, the camp gathers near shade. The sun grows warm, insects hum. Someone repairs a tool, someone prepares fibres. A child naps with one arm thrown across the face, looking like a very small elder exhausted by society. You sit near the recovering patient from earlier days, now almost fully well. The cough has faded, strength has returned, no one celebrates loudly. The camp simply absorbs the recovery and continues. The body has done its hidden work again. But how did prehistoric people explain recovery here? The trail becomes soft beneath your feet. Some explanations may have involved spirits or unseen forces. Some may have involved balance, place, weather, food, or social harmony. Some may have been entirely practical. Drink, rest, stay warm, wait. The clues are suggestive rather than complete. And no single explanation can cover every prehistoric community across every landscape and period. Still, you can see the roots of medicine forming, not as a profession, not as a building, not as a shelf of pills, as attention, as memory, as a willingness to help. In the afternoon, clouds move over the valley, softening the light. The camp becomes quieter. People work under the dimmer sky, moving with unhurried purpose. You notice how many forms of body knowledge are embedded in daily life. A mother adjusts the newborn against her chest. Knowing warmth and closeness matter, a hunter rests a sore leg. Knowing strain can worsen pain. A gatherer warns a child away from a plant. Knowing curiosity is not always a survival advantage. An elder teaches where to find certain herbs. A young person watches how to wrap a cut. No one calls this anatomy. No one calls this healthcare. It is simply life. The body before science was not a blank mystery. It was a familiar mystery. People knew its moods, its signals, its needs, its dangers. They knew the body as you might know a landscape after years of walking through it. You may not understand the geology beneath every hill, but you know where the path floods, where the wind turns cold, where berries ripen, and where stones become slippery after rain. The body was a landscape too, partly mapped, partly hidden, always changing. Toward evening, the clouds clear and sunlight returns in long golden bands. The fire is rebuilt. The smell of smoke and cooking food spreads through the camp. People gather. The painted child from yesterday now has faded pigment across one cheek. The elder's empty place remains near the hearth, but someone has placed a small tool there for a moment before moving it aside. Memory is becoming part of the camp's daily rhythm. You think about how modern people often imagine knowledge as something formal, a diagram, a lecture, a test, a published paper, but for most of human existence, knowledge looked like this: someone watching closely, someone remembering, someone showing another person what to do. The body taught, and people listened. Not perfectly, not always correctly, but carefully. That care made survival possible. The night settles, stars return above the valley. The firelight warms your face while cool darkness gathers behind you. Around the flames, bodies continue their quiet work. Stomachs digest, hearts beat, lungs breathe, wounds mend, children grow, memories form, cells divide, dreams wait for sleep. The people here understand only fragments of those hidden processes, yet the fragments matter. They know enough to live, enough to care, enough to teach, enough to wonder. And perhaps that is where science itself begins, long before anyone names it, with wonder, with patterns, with the simple realization that the body is not random. It sends messages, it changes, it remembers, it responds. You sit beside the fire as the camp grows sleepy. A child leans against an adult. The newborn sighs. Someone adds one last branch to the flames. Prehistoric humans did not have the explanations you have now, but they had attention, patience, memory, and each other, and in the long darkness before science. That was how the human body first began to be understood. The final morning in the camp arrives quietly. No great event announces it. No storm breaks. No animal cries out in the darkness. The sky simply lightens. The fire breathes back into flame, and the people begin another day inside bodies they do not fully understand. You sit near the hearth and watch them. The newborn sleeps close to the mother. Children stretch beneath hide coverings. A hunter rubs one shoulder before reaching for a tool. A woman checks the edge of a stone blade. Someone coughs once, then smiles as if to reassure the others. Smoke rises. Dew shines on grass. The valley opens beneath soft morning light. By now. You have seen enough to understand something gentle and important. Prehistoric humans did not know the body the way modern science knows it. They did not know cells, they did not know germs. They did not know nerves, hormones, circulation, oxygen, genetics, immunity, or brain chemistry. But they were not foolish. They were attentive. They knew the body through hunger and rest, through pain and recovery, through birth and aging, through fever, scars, sweat, dreams, and death. They knew the body by living inside it. You walk slowly through the camp one last time. The young hunter whose ankle was wrapped now moves more easily. The cut hand has become only a small mark. The person who coughed through the night stands near the fire, still thinner and quieter, but alive. The child with the sore belly is already busy investigating the world again, apparently determined to give adults new reasons for concern. Life continues by repetition. That repetition is not dull, it is survival. Looking back across the long human story, one fact becomes clear. Long before formal medicine, human communities built practical knowledge from observation, care, memory, and shared experience. They watched bodies closely. They learned what helped. They remembered what harmed. They taught the next generation. This was the first map of the human body, drawn not on paper, but in behavior. The camp prepares food as the sun rises higher. Roots are cleaned, meat is warmed, water is carried. A child is warned away from the fire. An elder checks the sky as if reading weather in the morning light. Every action contains body knowledge. Food for hunger, water for thirst, warmth for cold, shade for heat, rest for fatigue, touch for comfort, silence for grief, story for memory. None of it requires a diagram. You sit beside the mother and newborn. The baby stirs, opens tiny eyes, then closes them again. Inside that small body, growth has already begun. Bones strengthen. Breath steadies. The mind gathers its first impressions of warmth, sound, smell, and touch. No one here can describe any of this scientifically, yet everyone understands that the child must be protected. That is knowledge too. A small but revealing thread runs through prehistoric evidence. Bodies that healed, burials arranged with care, ornaments worn close to the skin, and pigments placed on the dead all suggest that ancient people treated the body as meaningful, not merely useful. The body worked. The body suffered. The body belonged. The body remembered. You step toward the edge of camp. The burial place rests beyond the shelters, quiet beneath earth and grass. The elder is gone, yet his stories remain in gestures, warnings, and remembered words. This is another thing prehistoric people knew without knowing it scientifically. The body ends, but influence continues. A person can remain inside the group after breath has stopped, not physically, not visibly, but through memory, through teaching, through the way others now move through the world. The exact beliefs of these people remain beyond reach. No one can recover every thought spoken beside every fire. No single theory can explain all prehistoric ideas about the body. spirit, illness, and death. But the fragments are enough to show depth. They wondered, they interpreted, they cared. They made meaning from what they could observe and what they could not explain. That may be the most human thing of all. By afternoon, the camp is busy again. Tools are carried. Children follow adults. Someone laughs near the stream. The wind moves through grass with a soft rushing sound. You feel sunlight on your skin and remember the long chain of bodily mysteries you have walked through. Pain that warns, blood that flows, hunger that calls, sleep that restores, dreams that confuse, breath that sustains, fever that frightens, healing that amazes, birth that reveals life from hidden darkness, growth that transforms children into adults, bones that support, skin that meets the world, strength that rises and fades, food that nourishes or harms, age that slows the body and deepens memory, mind that feels like a universe, death that leaves silence, marks that turn the body into story, and knowledge that grows before science gives it names. You realize that prehistoric people understood more than we sometimes imagine. Not the hidden mechanics, not the microscopic truth, but the lived truth. They understood that bodies need care. They understood that people survive better together. They understood that attention matters. They understood that a weak person should be watched, a child should be warmed, an injury should be protected, and a story should be remembered. Modern knowledge is astonishing. It explains so much, yet even today you still live much of life by sensation. You know thirst before you explain hydration. You know fear before you explain adrenaline. You know comfort before you explain touch. You know tiredness before you explain cellular repair. In that way. The ancient camp is not as distant as it seems, even now. The body speaks first. Science explains later. Evening returns. The fire brightens as the valley darkens. People gather in the same circle where this journey began. Smoke rises. Children grow sleepy. The newborn breathes softly. The old place beside the hearth remains remembered, but not empty forever. Life makes room, then continues. You sit among them one last time. The stars appear overhead. The human body remains mysterious, but no longer unfamiliar. It is the same body you brought with you, the same hunger, the same breath, the same heartbeat, the same need for warmth, sleep, food, touch, belonging, and rest. Prehistoric humans did not understand everything about themselves. No human ever has, but they knew enough to live. Love, heal, grieve, teach, and wonder. And in the soft glow of the fire, that knowledge feels quietly profound. Word count 1164. The camp grows softer now. The fire lowers into a bed of red coals, and the valley settles beneath a great quiet sky. No one speaks much anymore. The day's work has ended. The children sleep. The newborn rests against warm skin. The smoke rises slowly, then disappears into darkness. You do not need to follow the hunters now. You do not need to gather roots, study wounds, watch fevers, or wonder what dreams mean. You can simply sit. You can feel the warmth on your face and the cool night air behind you. Around the fire, bodies breathe in slow rhythm. Hearts beat unseen. Blood moves silently. Thoughts fade into sleep. The people here do not understand all the hidden work taking place inside them, and that is all right. The body has always carried life forward quietly, patiently, without waiting to be fully explained. And perhaps tonight, that is comforting. You do not need to understand every mystery before you rest. You do not need to solve every question before morning. Like the ancient people beside this fire, you can trust the simple things: warmth, breath, stillness, darkness, the gentle return of sleep. The stars remain overhead, bright and calm. The wind moves lightly through the grass. Somewhere far away, water slips over stones. The fire gives one last soft crackle, then settles lower. Your body grows heavy, your thoughts slow. The ancient camp becomes dimmer, quieter, farther away, and as the night wraps itself around the valley, you can let the story fade with the smoke, leaving only the peaceful sense of being here, breathing gently, resting safely, and drifting slowly into sleep. Sweet dreams.